I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's the Finance Committee meeting. It's March 25th. We're at 6 o'clock. Tonight, to start the agenda, I did pass around some minutes. It was the schools and the DPW from last time. I think it was
The 12th and the 9th and the 12th.
9th and the 12th. Do I have a motion to approve minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes from 3/9 and 3/12.
First, and then I have a first from Pam and a second from Harry. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, great. So those are, next is we'll be doing the library and then the 100 series, which is a lot of the town hall, and then some of the 200 series, which is just the inspection. So we will start with the library, and Patrick is here to talk about the library with us. So,
Thank you, I appreciate it. Word got around fast. That's thank you.
do you know my sheet?
Where are we?
I just need to find what page the library is.
Library is on.
Yeah, that's good.
300.
There's six.
Library 600.
42, page 42.
I'm going in the totally wrong direction.
Oh,
We got stuff.
okay. Okay.
All right, thank you for having me. I thought I would, as I did last year, I'm going to do this very quickly. I just passed around essentially a PowerPoint that I worked up last year and updated for this year because, again, it really shows the extent to which our level of busyness at the new location, the new building, has grown since we moved from the Goodwin. So on these charts that you'll see, 2019 was the last sort of normal year in the old reality of working in Goodwin. So on the first slide, for example, we have how many people on average visited the library in any given hour, 2019 versus 2024, which is when I first worked this up. And I've just added 2025. The reason I kept in 2024 rather than just swapping it out, because I want you to see that even now from year to year, we're seeing tremendous increases that are really not reflected in the increases to the budget in terms of like how many people are working and how we're keeping up. So as you can see here, patrons per hour in 2019 were just under 10. By 2024, that had almost doubled to 18, and by 2025, just in the space of a year, another 14% increase up to 20 and a half per hour. And of course, some hours are busier than others. That is an average. Some hours are quiet, and some hours, we're doing gangbusters, and we've got 40 or 50 people coming into the library, depending on what's going on. This is the new slide that I added this year because I think it's really important, particularly in times of budget stressors, to remember the value that Hadley residents find in the services that the library provides. Now, CW Mars provides a tool by which we can calculate using the value placed on any given item. So a book might cost $25, and that's in the record. So if, say, the book was destroyed or lost and someone needed to replace it, we know how to charge that patron to replace the item. Well, you can also use that information to generate a value for if the number of items circulated and the value attached to each of those items. And what that's telling you is that if everybody in town did not have a library to use and went to Barnes & Noble or bought things off of their favorite bookstore or online website, that's the value at retail of what people would be paying collectively for the use of those materials. And so in 2025, you'll see here that the value of the items that we own, that we circulated to patrons at the library, was nearly more than $750,000 in value. The value of items that we borrowed from other communities in 2025 and that our patrons borrowed was $233,875 for a grand total of more than $1 million, $1,006,158. So that just goes to show that, again, with a budget of somewhere in the neighborhood of 275 or whatever it is this year, that there's more value derived from what, from the activity and what we're putting in. You can take those numbers with a grain of salt. Of course, everybody can find a better deal, buy the book used, borrow it from a friend, but we just want to use that as a measure of, to give people a sense of, that value. We have 3 spaces similar to this one in the library that community groups, all kinds of, any member of the public can reserve for a meeting, for quiet study. And I just want to show the degree to which that has added a level of activity and administration and scheduling in a situation where in the old Goodwin, you'll see on the chart, in 2019, the number of meetings was 0 because there were no such meeting spaces to reserve, to oversee. By 2024, that number was 1,069 meeting appointments. In 2025, it again went up 14% to 1,217. Every one of those is scheduled at the front desk. There's no automated software to do that. That is a staff person taking that phone call and putting you on the calendar, making sure that you have what you need when you come to run your meeting. We provide some limited technological support. That's actually what I was doing right before I came over here, helping someone to get a web camera set up, the Meeting Owl that Hadley Media uses for a lot of these meetings. So again, that is a huge amount of work and a huge amount of value in terms of what the community is able to utilize for free within the library.
Is that public? Because you're saying so the Nugent community rooms, that's for DPW, police?
No, it's for anything.
Oh, I know that.
Yes,
But I'm just saying, are you saying that it's majority or even out where the town is using it, but also for studies, chess, other things that these are being reserved for? How much is the town using this?
So when you say the town, you don't mean residents, you mean departments. Is that what you
Departments,
mean?
DPW, police,
Yeah,
and fire.
I would say they're probably, typically there's probably 2 to 3 meetings that are committee, departmental. It really depends from month to month. I mean, DPW will call us up and say, we've got a training, can we use the big meeting room?
Okay.
Fire, whoever it is, we just, to the best of our ability, we say yes, and that, town departments take precedent, committees take precedent, and we also make those spaces available outside of regular hours because, the town business comes first, and we will allow those things to happen even if we're not open. Jennifer at Town Hall has a key, and she helps to facilitate that, as does Gary Berg.
So most of them
Yeah.
are public, right, not town?
The majority of the activity in these rooms is
Public.
members of the public, reserving, again, for small meetings, one-on-one kinds of things, tutoring, again, quiet study, Zoom calls, any number of things. The majority of these meetings are small. They're small group, and 2 of the 3 spaces that we have are small rooms, smaller than this, probably about a third of the size of this room. So they're really meant for no more than 6 to 8 people. And then the Nugent room can hold up to 100 people, standing room only. So depending on how you want to set up the room, like if you want to set it up like this with tables, then that capacity comes down. But the meetings in there are typically, we frequently have multiple meetings in a week that are 30 to 40 people, sometimes more, but they're generally, if an hour meeting, people are going to be sitting down, so they're not huge 100-person meetings. Next slide. How many physical items did the library loan out annually, 2019 versus 24 versus 25? And again, I keep that 2024 in there just to show you the growth from last year to this year. Back in 2019 in Goodwin, we circulated 42,415 items to members of the borrowing community. In 2024, that had gone up to 62,234, and last year it was 69,774. That's 12% increase between last year and this year. And those numbers may seem abstract, but to us they're not. They're anything but, because every one of those items that is passed over the desk is handled by staff members multiple times. If something is coming from a library outside of the community, then those items will be handled as many as 4 or 5 times before they are returned to the borrowing library. So that is a lot of sorting, a lot of physical work. We've got 2 more here for you. This one I think is again sort of showing the degree to which we are leveraging the goodwill in the community that people feel towards the library, their sense of ownership and investment in it. So that the slide is, how does Hadley Public Library utilize volunteers to assist in its daily work? And so we've always had volunteers, but in 2019 at Goodwin, smaller library, we had utilized about 341 hours in that year of volunteer labor. In 2025, that number was 1,731 hours. If you were to multiply that out by minimum wage $15 an hour, that would be $25,965 in value.
How many volunteers do you have, like, count-wise, 10, 30?
It's probably in the range of 20 to 25. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but we have people that come in on a regular weekly schedule, and we have people that are like Haley's Comet, and they just show up, and we didn't know they were coming. And we put them to work if we have work for them, and we typically do. One other thing I wanted to mention about that is that out of the entire state, because these are statistics that the Board of Library Commissioners tracks, Hadley ranks 80th out of 363 Massachusetts communities in terms of use of volunteers in the library, based on the number of hours.
What was that value again? If it were
$25,965.
Thank you.
When it comes to the
Yeah.
borrowing of the books, how many libraries are in your network of borrowing? So you don't have a book, you
Yeah.
would get it from the one from Amherst and
Yes.
maybe one from Westfield. How
Yes.
many are in your network of libraries that you can borrow from? How far?
So the short answer to that is essentially 363. It's the entire state. You can borrow from all around the state. You can borrow from out of state. If there's something that we're looking for that we cannot get from within the state, we routinely get things from other larger libraries in other states, college libraries. We can get nearly anything that you were looking for. The library system is set up to facilitate that kind of resource sharing. So if there's something that you come to us with and we can see that it exists, but we don't see it in any of the catalogs, we're still able to reach out to get that. And we do anything. We probably do a dozen of those loans every month where it's something hard to find. Closer to home, though, I mean, we are part of the CW Mars Library Network, that's Central and Western Massachusetts automated resource sharing. I don't remember exactly the number of CW Mars libraries at last count, but that's essentially everything a little bit east of Worcester to the western border, and that's probably in the order of, I'm going to guess, 80 to 100 libraries. But so those are typically what we're reaching for, and then it's a little slower.
To go off
Yeah.
of that, does it have to be like, is there like an accredited, or don't they have to be at a certain, you have to be at a certain level, or do you have to?
To borrow items?
Or, yeah, to be in, like, if you don't meet certain criteria.
Yeah, so what we're doing every year, we're reporting information to the Board of Library Commissioners. So we submit a couple of reports. One of them is statistical based on our level of activity, and then one is a financial report that we send. We send them the budget. We send them how we spend that money. We send them information on other sources of income that we may have, donations or what have you, and based on that, meeting certain thresholds of number of hours open, number of days open per week relative to the size of the community. It's kind of, there are different standards for a larger community than a smaller one, because they know that smaller communities have less resources. So we meet those requirements both financially and through our schedule and things that we provide to the community, and we get what is called certification. That certification is what allows the members of this community, Hadley, to walk into the Jones Library, and what allows members of Amherst, the Amherst community, to come to Hadley, walk into the Hadley Library and use resources there. And it's also what allows for that borrowing between communities of materials. When a library becomes decertified because it's not meeting its obligations, if it is defunded, if its budget is cut in a way that is disproportionate to cuts elsewhere in a municipal budget, then that is when the MBLC takes an interest in that, and the risk is that is we become decertified, and then you are blocked from going to those communities. Those communities will no longer serve you, and you're really only able to use the resources that you as a community pay for in your own library. So if, for instance, at an extreme end of the spectrum, if the town were to decide, in this town or any other town, to just not fund a library, we're just going to close it down. And this is something that we hear all the time. People will say, well, I could just go to the Jones, or I could just go to the Forbes. And they're not going to check your ID when you walk through the door, but if you try to avail yourself of services that require a library card, a valid card that is up to date, and you don't owe $100, when they scan that, they're going to say, oh, you're from a community that is decertified and we can't serve you in that way. You can still go in and sit at a table and, but
What
you won't be
happens
able
to
to.
the communities that don't have a library?
I don't know that there are any.
Oh,
And I would say on average, they're usually on any given year 1 to 2 to 3 that have been decertified, again because of whatever catastrophic. Well, things happen. Things
yeah,
happen.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering because I hear things in the newspaper, so I was wondering
Yes.
what would happen.
And of course,
Okay, thank you.
it's a challenge to get back to where you were and
Okay.
get back on track. And then I've got one more slide for you,
Okay.
and that is to ask the question, how is library staffing keeping up with the dramatic increase in usage? And the fact of the matter is that we have not changed too much from 2019 when we were in the Goodwin. We had the 3.5 full-time equivalents, including myself. In 2025, we have 4, including myself. When you look at the budget worksheet for part-time library salaries, what you will see there is that is the equivalent of 2.75 full-time equivalents there. That is partially because we do have one part-time staff position that is paid for outside of the normal budget through the state aid payment. I should mention, going back, one of the incentives for that certification for being a good egg and doing what you need to do is that the state provides an incentive payment in the form of state aid to libraries. And so we receive, I think this year we're probably on track to receive something like $16,000 from the state for meeting our obligations. That state aid funding can be used for any purpose, and so we often use that to fund what we cannot fund through the normal operating budget from year to year. In this case, we have one 10-hour-a-week position that we pay for through that funding source because we have not been able to get that into the normal budget, and we've been trying for several years for these reasons.
The state aid, where does that go through? Does that go through you, Linda?
Yes.
Or does that go right to the library?
No, I mean, it goes into an account and through the
Okay.
treasurer's office.
Just
Yes,
like
it's
the
deposited with the
first
town. Yep.
Okay.
And so we also use that for, we have a roster of substitute staff that will come in cases where someone's out due to illness, vacation, whatever. We have three of us are full-time, so obviously people have, they have vacations, they have sick time, they have personal time. And so when there are absences, we do use state aid funding to pay for substitute staff who come in periodically. We don't, we're not using them heavily, but at times when there's no other choice because there are not enough people to be in the building, we bring in a sub. We don't do it willy-nilly, and we don't do it just to have somebody sitting there. We do it because we need them. And so that is the funding source for that as well. So if you ever see an unfamiliar face in there, that is probably what's happening. And that concludes what I wanted to get off my chest. Is there anything that I can answer for you?
I got a couple questions.
Sure.
What are the hours, or what's the time when the library opens? Does it open up every single day at, say, 9 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night? Or are there different days of different times that the building is open?
Yes, it's different times, different days. So the schedule, as it exists now, has been this way. It precedes me, and it goes back to the Goodwin. But what the schedule is essentially Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We open at 2 o'clock. We close at 7 on the Monday and Friday, and 8 on Wednesday, so that we can have evening hours for folks that work that cannot be there in the morning. Tuesday and Thursday we're open from 10 in the morning until 5 p.m. And then on Saturday, we are open from 10 in the morning until 3 p.m. We've had, periodically, we're asked why we're not open on Sunday, and you know, we could be open 24 hours a day if we have money to do it, but you know, we don't, and that's where we stand.
Thank you. I'm looking at this when it comes to the educational supplies and books of $51,525.
Yep.
Are we talking about brand-new books, books that have been damaged, new books that you want to add to the collection, as to who decides what books for $51,000 are deciding of what they are? Is
Yeah.
it because, oh, we didn't have this book, we had to keep on borrowing it within the network, so we might as well get it ourselves?
This is the amount of material that we buy in a year, new materials for the library, and that includes, this includes newspapers, magazines, subscriptions, databases, books, DVDs, music CDs, audiobooks, video, streaming services. We have Canopy streaming that you can, watch. You get credits and you can watch from home. We have Libby, which is audiobooks and ebooks that you can borrow on your phone or device. So this is essentially the cost of new materials, and there is a formula here. This is part of our part of the requirements for certification through the Board of Library Commissioners is that they are expecting to see a 19% expenditure out of your total budget. 19% of that they want to see as acquisitions of new materials. So that is where that number generally comes. We're always wanting to satisfy that. So as the total budget goes up, that number is going up with it to stay within 19%, so that we satisfy that. And again, keep in mind that by doing all of these things, we are getting an incentive back from the state of, as I said, this year it's going to be probably $16,000.
How far would we have to go down in services to trigger a possible decertification by the state that you were talking about, in your opinion?
Well, part of that would be, so there's a formula that they have where they will take the average of the three most recent years, multiply that by, they want to see a 2%. The average, then multiply it times 2%, or like 1.02%. And that is supposed to be the municipal allocation requirement. So whatever that is, that figure, I don't have that figure in front of me. In this year, we were not particularly concerned about that because costs are increasing. We're not like going down. Our budget has gone slightly up, so we were not really in a position to be concerned about that. I mean, if there's a large cut, I can't really tell you off the top of my head. I don't have a number for that in this case. I'd have to go back and calculate it. I'd have to get the figures for the last couple of years and then do the math.
But there's other consequences of cutting it down, short of decertification altogether. If you cut it down, then there's other benefits that we don't get with the grants that come in.
Yes, well, that's part of one of the things that one of the other benefits of being a certified library is that through the Board of Library Commissioners, that's how we built that's how we got the grant to build the library, because we were a community in good standing. That is what allowed us to write a grant and get $4 million to build half the money to build the new library. There are other grant opportunities that we avail ourselves of. This is actually not Board of Library Commissioners, so it's kind of off topic, but I will mention that we applied because we do look for opportunities to supplement our budget. We did apply to the Mass Cultural Council this year for a grant in support of operations, and we did receive it. That is a recurring grant in the amount of $9,400 a year for the next four years. I believe you've received that first payment, so that is there. That's actually money that we anticipate using to try to bridge a shortfall in the budget this year, as the numbers are less than what we were hoping for. So we're looking to bridge that gap through that and other resources that we have available.
And I see
Yes.
there's a new item here. It's longevity, and I
Yes.
was just wondering, was that something that was already in place and it just got triggered this year, or was it something new?
No, it's
that
it's something. Well, it
negotiated?
came from the union. So our staff, the staff that are over, I think it's 15 hours. I don't know if I can't remember what the threshold is, but staff over 15 or 16 hours, whichever it was, they now belong to the municipal union that formed
Mhm.
a year or so ago, and so one of the terms of their contract is longevity payments for folks that have been here more than, I don't know where, I think it starts at 10 years. 10 years. So we have 2 staff currently who have been here for terms that meet that. One has been here, I believe, for 11 years. One has been here for more than 15. I myself have been here for 15 years. So that's what that is. But the reason that it's a new line is because when I went to the HR department and said, how do we need to address this? And they said, well, there probably should be a line specifically in the budget that addresses that specific thing, so people can see what that, why there's that, why there's that increase, whatever it is. So that's why it's a new item.
Right. We're still working that through a little bit because
Yeah.
longevity is new to us. Some departments were putting it right in, adding into their salary lines. Others were doing it as a separate item, and it was just getting a little confusing, especially when you're trying to look from one year to increase into the next year. It seemed a good idea to have it separate. And then when we have, so what we did in town hall, and I guess we didn't pull you in, but we could consider this for next year, is we're trying to consolidate the longevities onto a single line item, because if you have someone who's gets longevity, but then they're not here next year, rather than have it sit in the individual budget, it will be in that group line so that it's available to use, or it will roll back in.
With that longevity, I guess the question is it one of those things, like you said, it's after 10 years, like a 10-year, that is there a salary cap to the point where you're adding this longevity to the line? Or they're just saying, oh, as a bonus because you're staying at one place for 10 years, we're giving you extra money plus your bonus or your 3% salary?
I don't
Is
think
that
we
kind of what
consider it
they're doing? Is
a
they're saying,
bonus.
okay, thank you for
This is-
being for us for 10 years.
This
plus
is
we're-
this is a union negotiated item, so be careful how you talk about it.
Well, I'm
I
asking
mean,
about it. I mean, it doesn't
yeah,
matter how
this
I
is-
bring it up. I mean, it's a
No,
question to
but I
bring up
think
as to
it's
where
important
the
that
money's
these are
coming
not bonuses. This is considered earned after a certain amount of time and service to the town. It's considered earned. So, and it is paid annually after that point when you've been here. Is the earliest 5 or start at 10? Starts at 10, right?
Starts at 10.
Yeah, 10 and up. And it is a separate item. If someone was to replace that person, it would, they would start over in that. I wasn't part of negotiations, but it seems it's something that was agreed to and accepted by both sides, and it's the way it is.
And so Linda, you're saying like next year, everything's gonna be thrown in one pot for
Well,
all?
I think I did that with, because some of the hundreds budgets, and maybe they'll confirm it when they come up, some of them, when they came up for their salaries, we forgot to add in the longevity. So after a while, we just said, let's just sit here and calculate everybody in town hall who gets it, and we're gonna put it in a line. I think it was in the select board budget we put. I hope I'm remembering that correctly, but I'll check, when we're going through the hundreds in a little bit. But, whether that's the best way to do it, I don't know. But we wanted it not to get forgotten. I personally forgot it in our department. I left my assistant out, and she'd been here 10 years. So it's like, okay, we need some kind of a trigger that someone's really paying attention to it. So we'll see. This is, as Patrick mentioned, it hasn't been around very long. So.
I didn't even know I didn't even know it was a thing until
That's
until I
right.
found out it was a thing, and then I
Yeah,
had to
there you
figure out
go.
what to do about it.
That's-
So yeah.
So the budget has you losing half a person. How is that going to impact you? Can you give us an idea?
So as I mentioned, we received a grant, and we have some funding that was approved previously to expand the hours of a position for functions that we had hoped to implement. We're not doing anything new, but we have that funding approved, so we're hoping to bridge the gap and
So you'll be
not.
able to keep the person.
We're hoping to keep the person. Again, based on that's why the information that I'm sharing is so important. We're trying not to close. We're trying not to put people in a position where we have to close, say, on Monday, and we have a lot of people depending on us, just as the senior center does, and just as all the town departments do. We have a lot of folks that don't get a seat at this table. For instance, those people that I'm thinking of are students. We have a lot of kids that come over from Hopkins. In the past, we were not open on Mondays, and that was one of the goals that the trustees set forward about 10 years ago, for us to be open 5 days a week during the school week, so that we would be able to have a place for those kids to come every day after school. And that's really, one of the primary reasons that we're trying not to cut a day. We also don't want to disenfranchise people that work through the week and really can only be here, adults typically that could only be here on the weekend, so we don't want to close on Saturday. We're really trying to hold the line here until we can kind of get through this, this kind of fiscal squeeze, whatever, crisis, whatever you want to call it. We're just doing everything we can to keep it stable.
So the 117 salary here, that's here, you're good with that, and with your other grants and everything, you're going to be able to maintain where you are.
I mean, if that's
Employee level.
that's the number that was recommended by Linda and Mike, and so that's what we're working around. We don't really have much else to do beyond that.
Of course you'd want it back.
We'll take it back if you. But,
I'm sure
yeah.
you would.
Yeah.
I just want to say, if that half an employee is not going to be covered, I just wanted to know the impact, but it
Yeah.
sounds like you've got it under control with
Trying.
your extra
We are trying.
grants and stuff, so
Yeah.
great.
So, my question is, the people that are coming to the library, can you tell me what the average, person is, what's the average age? Is it mostly, I know you have, there is a variety, but the majority of it, is a lot of it is it the kids, after school, is it?
It depends on the time of day. Obviously,
Okay.
that is definitely key to that. I don't have the numbers in front of me to tell you, we track. So what we do, we at the desk when people enter the building, there's typically always a person at that desk. We have a tally sheet. We record what we observe in terms of people entering the building. So if a mom comes in with a small child, we mark one adult, one child. If we see teenagers coming in after school, we'll be marking 5, 10, 15 young adults walking in the door and going into the YA room. And so we just track it that way, and then we provide that information to the Board of Library Commission. Actually, they don't ask for that breakdown, but we have it.
Okay.
We report to them the total number of people entering. They don't ask for a breakdown of that, but we do record it. So I would say, by and large, the majority of people that are entering the library are adults. But why they're coming in. I mean, at one time of the day, you're going to see typically families of young children coming in for story times and
Okay.
other activities, and it's going to be a lot of young parents, grandparents, and little kids. Later in the day, it may get a little bit slower, and it's going to be typically just adults, some college students. After 2 p.m., the kids start coming in, and we may have, sometimes we have 50 kids in there, and so. It just really depends on the time of the day,
Do you collaborate at all with the schools, libraries?
We do, yeah,
You do?
absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's the staff, the librarian at Hopkins is often over and working with the children's staff, collaborating on stuff and getting resources. She gets a lot of interlibrary loan stuff through us. We've over the years done a lot with Hadley Elementary in terms of getting materials for class projects, and we're happy to help. It's a struggle to really get on the school's radar because they're so busy, but we do everything that we can to make them aware of what we can provide. And I think it's typically what happens is some of the teachers, when they realize the benefit, will come over, and we have some teachers that we see all the time, nearly on a weekly or monthly basis, and then some teachers maybe just don't know, but we try to make them aware of what they can, what they can get through us. We do a lot of collaboration with the Hopkins Art Department. We constantly have displays of art from students at the school, and we're happy to work on stuff like that and anything else that we can do to be helpful to the schools.
Do you do anything with the charter school or so the Chinese immersion school or the colleges?
We see a lot of students from the Chinese immersion. We haven't really done. I can't think of anything that we've done formally with them. With the colleges, we certainly do we have a lot of programming that comes to us from UMass. We've done had a lot of things through UMass. Various talks, various programs for kids, science programs, things like that. Yeah,
Do you
definitely.
utilize interns from UMass? From
I saw that. I saw that email. I saw that email. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think if we've had.
You said you're always busy, so I thought
For
maybe
sure.
that would be a good, get somebody for an intern to do some
We'd
of
love
that
to. We have a couple
stuff.
tax abatement volunteers that we use. We'd certainly use interns. We've had library school students. We've had some folks from folks that are in the Simmons Library Science program that have come over and done some time with us working on special projects. So yeah, we try to figure out what how volunteers or anyone can be useful, and we try to put them to work.
And the people that are coming in, do you track whether they're Hadley residents or non-Hadley residents? Or you
We only track that in the sense of when they borrow items.
they take it out.
I mean,
Okay.
again, we don't, to walk in the building, we're not looking at anything like that, so we wouldn't know. But if they're borrowing, we have that statistical information. Yeah.
During those days of the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 to 7, 5, 10 to 5, do you have the full staff of the 4 or the 3.5?
No, it's staggered. It's
So it
staggered.
is staggered. So some days you might have 2 Saturdays, okay, because it's a rainy day, you're gonna get a bunch of kids on the weekend or on
Yeah.
a Saturday because it's raining, so you might figure that out, having maybe more employees because.
Yeah, I mean, it's more, I mean, we're not changing from week to week because that would be a little chaotic, but
Right.
I mean, we have a weekly schedule. I mean, we know who's going to be there on a given day, and then, we will change things up as needed based on
Sometimes 2,
absences. if
sometimes
somebody-
4, depending on the
Typically
the reserving of the rooms especially, that you might need more staff.
Yeah, I mean, we sort of know where the busy times are and where we need, where we need the most help, and we have, we do have certain days where, yeah, I mean, typically, and partially for safety reasons, the minimum number of people that we want in the building at any given time, staff-wise, is 2.
Mhm.
Because if somebody gets in trouble, we want somebody else to be able to, be aware of what's going on. And so for safety reasons, that is the minimum. The most that are ever in the building is typically 3, 4 if you count myself, but that is really on a Wednesday, there are 3 staff members other than myself there, 2 of whom overlap, but they're not there for the full day at the same time. So it's kind of a longer day because we have certain things that have to be done before we open. So, it's just it's a scheduling thing, but yeah, we don't always have everyone there at the same time. That never happens.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
No more questions?
I'm good.
Gage, any question?
I got one question.
All right.
So with the annual meetings for like the room part appointments, these are specialized rooms for obviously people to come in and do whatever in.
Uh-huh.
Let's just say you said some of the meetings are done by like town staff and all that. So
Mhm.
if we just, let's say, be generous, say like half of it is just not town related staff and just members of the public. I'm a big advocate for maintaining like free services and stuff like that, but have we ever considered doing maybe like a voluntary donation of like, let's say like $5 an hour to use these like rooms that you say the staff at the library have to like oversee and maintain?
Yeah, I mean, we actively, we have a very, we pursue donations all the time for all sorts of things. The spirit of the library is that anyone should be able to come in. And I like your suggestion that of making donations, and we remind people all of the time that they're able to make those donations for general support of the library. We haven't tied it specifically to the meeting room application to use it, but we certainly could put a thing on there that says, please consider making a donation to support these resources. It's something we could look at. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Just like with the math, like just 600 times, let's say it's like $5. It's an additional, what, $3,000 right there?
Yeah.
That could cover, some of these
Yeah.
like office supply line
Mhm.
items and just programs and other
Mhm.
things, so.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm glad you expressed it as a voluntary donation, because one of the conditions of our having a tax exempt bond is that we don't charge. Yeah, so we can't run a business in it'd be great, it'd be great.
But one
Selling
thing-
used books in the back room.
Yeah,
But,
and I should also mention, to your point, people do feel very strongly about the library, and sort of in the spirit of what you're saying, there are a number of things that folks do. They've left sizable gifts to the library through bequests, We routinely get just, a gift out of the blue, whether it's in support of something specific or, just a general gift at the end of the year. And again, those things typically get used for big expenses, new furniture, something that is not going to be able to be paid for in the regular budget. And we also have been, for a number of years, we've had a capital campaign going that is people still can donate to. We haven't really been actively pushing that, but we are currently looking at doing a lot more, more, now that we're in the new building, kind of like fundraising 2.0 to figure out how to, to maximize that generosity that we know is out there in the community. So, we're always looking at that, and you'd be surprised. I mean, I also want to say that the Friends of the Library, who also receive donations, there are kind of like our, our nonprofit arm, and they do a lot of the fundraising and they present programming. But they underwrite. The reason like our programming budget is so small, it's programs and activities $200. And I can tell you we do a lot more than $200 of programs and activities at the library, but that is because, as is appropriate, I think, for a library of our size and type, the Friends support that programming. They underwrite it, they get the donations, and then we go to them with a menu of things that we think we are going to do in the coming year. We say, we think we're going to need about $7,500. I think that's roughly what we got from them this year. We say we're going to do this stuff in these categories. Will you support it? They, they talk about it in their meeting, and then they vote, and then we have that support. So we're getting a lot of value that's ultimately coming from the generosity of supporters of the library through the Friends. Yeah.
One more,
We got-
Patrick, kind of, and Linda too. How much of your operating budget is offset by the monies that you receive from the Commonwealth, from the Board of Library Commissioners?
How much is it offset?
Yeah, if any, or is it earmarked for very specific
I mean,
endeavors?
we end up using it, as I said, for things that we cannot pay for in the regular budget. So if we say, we really, as I mentioned, we have one 10-hour-a-week position that we really need. It's, again, we're running, the numbers that you're seeing here, we're running at what I would consider the bare minimum.
Mhm.
And so when we knew that we needed another staff person, and we were not going to be able to get it out of the regular budget, we went to our state aid payment, and that, that is by and large covering the expense of having that staff person there.
Good.
So we're using it to enhance, generally speaking.
That position, for example, that be shown in this budget, it's,
Is not in that
It
budget.
wouldn't be shown in the
not.
budget.
It's not in the
which
budget.
Which
Yeah,
is
you're not
why
seeing
we, at one point,
Yeah.
we do actively discourage paying wages out of something that isn't showing up here. I don't think this happens in your case because they're not getting up into a certain level, but
There's
a higher
10-hour
could
position.
impact
Yeah.
our benefits line, for example, and other things. So we try and keep it so that do your hiring within the budget and use
Yeah.
it for other things. But there are years and there's
Yeah.
times and maybe.
Yes,
it's
yeah, I
one
mean,
of
and
those
as
times.
I mentioned, I mean, we already sort of had the precedent of having used that state aid funding for years to pay for a regular substitute help that comes in, and that was the only means available to us to pay for those subs. And so in this case, we were like, well, we need this staffing on a weekly basis. It's not really a sub, but we've been using this money. I mean, we're allowed. I understand it may not be best practice, but we're allowed, from your point of view, but in the eyes of
Yeah,
the state,
I know.
the state says you can use this money. I mean, we checked. I mean, you're able to use that state aid funding for any purpose library related. It's state aid to public libraries. It can be used for any operational purpose. And so we said, well, we really need to do this, and we would love to come to the finance committee and say, hey, this is what we need to do, and we want to get it into the regular budget. But again, the options on the table are do it this way, or not be open as much, or not be doing as good of a job as we're doing.
so this particular budget here, what's shown as a grand total is 100%, I guess what I'm driving at.
Yeah.
It's 100% out of tax dollars. It's not-
Exactly.
There's not an offset that you
Yes.
say,
Right.
well, we're getting 50,000 from the state
Right.
Board of
Yes.
Library Commissioners, so therefore our budget's 50,000 less to the taxpayer.
Yeah.
that's not the case in this.
Right. They're not like, and I know where you're coming from, because we talked about it with the veterans budget and with the COA
Yes,
budget,
yes.
that there were expenses in here and then we get reimbursed and it goes into the general fund budget, but there's nothing, that's not how it works with the
For the
libraries.
libraries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
There's someone in public that has a
Oh.
question.
Hi, I wrote down that you said in 2025 there were 1,217 scheduled events. Just for my clarity,
Yeah.
was that events or a number of patrons?
Not,
that came in?
not events, they were appointments, they're meeting room appointments. So that could, those meeting room, I think that's what you're talking about,
Yeah.
for, oh no, the answer is for meeting spaces. Yeah, so the way the chart reads is total annual meeting room appointments. And so those appointments, that could be an appointment to use the large meeting room, and it could have 100 people at it. It could be an appointment to use the small meeting room for a Zoom call. It could be to use the local history room for tutoring. The point of my bringing this up is not so much the size or number of people that are utilizing it, but the amount of work that goes into scheduling it. Because if there may be slightly more work and more details for a meeting of 100 people versus a meeting where someone just comes in to do a Zoom call, they're usually self-sufficient. But what I'm trying to drive at here is the amount of administrative work and scheduling and back and forth with people on the phone to line these things up. And so that is a category of work that never existed before when we were in the Goodwin. And I'm just simply trying to point out that it seems to be, it's continuing to increase even though we've been in that building for 5 years now. So,
Got it, thank you.
yeah. Anything else?
I think we're good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Nice
you very
job.
much.
You are very welcome. See you next year.
Thanks. And next,
You have the hundreds
go back to
lined
the
up behind us here.
Page we are with this.
Starting at 23.
page 23.
That's the first one, but I don't know if that's.
Do you want to,
Or do you want to?
well, I'm going to be here to the end, and inspectors will be here to the end, so we may want to take care of
Town collector.
others. Assessors on page 26.
Okay. Okay.
Assessors and town collector. That's two of them, yeah.
And, yeah,
Anyone that needs
collectors
to leave
on-
right away? Okay, so we'll start with assessors then, I guess. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Okay, so you can just jump right in, and I think as you go over your budget, that's when all the questions will pop up.
All right, sounds good. So based on the revised budget that I was given, it still has a line item in there for my clerical wages, but it's with the understanding that I will be losing the assistant that I have and sharing the assistant that the clerk has with her. The problem with that is that we've gotten, the clerk and I have both spoken with each other on what our offices require in order for them to run efficiently, and we're even at the minimum now because we both could use more help. So to try to stretch somebody into both of these offices again like it's been done in the past, and when I came here over a year ago, it was said that that wasn't working, so that's why that whole idea was eliminated. So then I was to get an assistant for 16 hours, and last year that got cut on me down to 10. An assessor's office is a very busy office. I'm sitting here listening to the library of how many people they have, and I've got, wow, I wish I had that many people because I could really use it. When I did hire Charlotte, who is my assistant right now, the reason I hired her was I had 3 very good candidates, and the reason I chose Charlotte is because she's currently doing her graduates to be in municipality. And so I thought, well, I'm gonna bring her in, and she has planning, so she has some of the experience, and she's helped me out immensely since she's been there, even with the only 10 hours that she's been there. And my idea with that was, she's young, she wants to be in the municipalities, and she's in planning. She probably was never subjected to assessors, and honestly, people don't grow up thinking, I'm gonna be an assessor when I get old. You kind of just fall into it. So I thought once she gets in there, maybe I can train her and get her, and she could be my succession plan. Because to be honest, the assessor's office needs that. Not anyone can just walk in that office and do what we do. You need schooling, you need certifications. It takes years and years of experience to be able to do that job. Last year during this finance meeting, it was via Zoom, and I was questioned as to why I had this $20,000 line for consulting. Dan never had it. I never worked with Dan. I worked with him all of 6 days. I was never trained by him. Budget didn't allow for him to stay on and work with me, so I had to figure this office out on my own. During my interview, of which Mike Mason was in, I was very honest with the fact that I had only been in this field for 2 years. I was an assessor under a chief assessor, had never done values. I didn't do that on my own, and even the chief assessor I worked under didn't do it herself. We had consultants there that came in and took care of it. And the majority of assessors throughout this Massachusetts they all have consultants. They all have 3 to 4 people in their office. So my point being is that the reason I need that line item, and that's really would hurt our office if we didn't even have that, is because I need help coming in, because I don't have the experience that Dan did. And to lose Charlotte as my part-time, because she's only 10 hours, she has organized my office like it's never been organized before. I mean, she takes things and runs with them. She owns Chapterland for me. She has it all organized. She has Excel sheets going, stuff I wouldn't have time to sit there and do. She takes care of customers for me, and when they come in the residence, she helps them with their abatement forms, and she collects all of that. She does all of my mailings for me, because our office requires, we have to send out several mailings a year to residents, whether it's for exemptions or form of lists to the businesses. We have chapter lands that we have to mail out, and they're in the hundreds that we have to send out, and that's time consuming. So for me to have to do all this myself is going to take away from the things that I need to get done in order to gain growth for this community. Growth is what keeps this community going. And I can't do that if I have to sit in an office and take care of stuffing envelopes and answering phones and having residents. I'm dealing with that all the time now, because I only have her for 10 hours a week. So that's going to take away from me going out and doing inspections. I have to do sale inspections to make sure that the sales that come through my office, they're legit and there weren't improvements that I can pick up on to get growth. I have to do permit inspections, and then chapter I'm even supposed to be checking on to make sure that these chapter lands are actually being farmed the way they say they are. But there's just not enough hours in the day for one person to do that. So I don't know what the long-term goal is for this office. I truly don't believe anyone really knows what we do, and when these decisions are made, it's kind of disheartening because people don't know what we're doing. You're cutting things out of a very, very important office. Jennifer, who just did a class the other day, Friday, she's sitting in class, and she came down to me and she said, God bless you, because my God, the stuff you work with is dry. I said, yes, I know. So maybe people will appreciate what I do a little more. And she said they have questions, and one of the questions is, one of the most important offices in the municipality is the assessor's office. Why? Because we generate revenue. We get out there, we collect the growth. I have to be out there to see stuff. People don't always pull permits to do things. So sometimes I'm out there and I just catch something and I make note of it and I go back to the office. Is this on this card? No. So I just picked up growth. But I can't do that if I'm sitting at my desk. And then what happens is I hear from residents that say, I call the assessor's office all the time, there's never an answer. Doesn't anybody work in there? Yeah, I do work in here, but I'm only one person. So to have this cut and to be expected to share a person with the clerk's office, who is just as busy as, we have a lot of foot traffic on the first floor that comes in and out. I had a line outside my door the other day because this is busy. This is a very busy time with excise abatements. Everyone knows you all just got your bill, and I have a lot of abatements on my desk. I just got finished with real estate abatements and personal property abatements, and now I'm going to be going into form of lists, and then I'm going into exemptions, and then I'm going into chapter, and then in between all of that, I have to do my permits, inspections, be out of the office. I have to input all of that into the CAMA system. I still have to do deeds that I have to get from the Registry of Deeds. I have to input and do all the change in ownership. And then I have to do values so we can actually set a tax rate and move on and get revenue. So that's why I'm sitting here and gonna say that cut, it would be really great if we could find the money so I can keep my assistant and keep my office running the way it is, because it's barely running with what I have as a 10-hour assistant as it is.
Wonder what's the assistant's salary if she was standalone, not shared with the town clerk?
The
What would hers-
11,792.
Well, 10 hours is 11,792.
That's
So-
the
So
number.
it's just a little bit under, but
It's about,
shared.
it's to 8.5
It's a different
hours.
person.
And, well,
Exactly.
yeah, and that was their option as to whether they were going to cut
No.
the hours. Yes, you guys, you sat with us.
It depends on what meeting you were in. So the meeting went like this. I got an email, I was not in the office. Jessica went upstairs to a
Well-
meeting with Linda
Well, we
and
can
Mike.
tell you right now, then, if it's new, that is an option that every department had. And you've heard departments come in and say, we've changed the way we're going to do that. That's not the one I'm going to cut. So I will tell you right now, you do have that flexibility if you didn't know it already, because I'm quite sure I was at 2 meetings where we missed. But that doesn't matter now. We're not here
Well-
to talk about
well,
that.
part of
You do
the-
have that option, and I wish you would. I hope you do get your hour and a half back. I do. I mean, we're going to hear from all departments that are being cut with hours. This is what's happening when you cut $1.5 million out of the budget. I don't want to do that, and I don't want to cut. We don't want to cut.
Right.
I now completely support going back to 10 hours, Cheryl.
So my thing too is I've been watching all of these meetings and I'm listening. And one really stuck out for me when we have money sitting around for just in cases, like the one where if department heads should leave and we have to bring somebody else in. That's a big pot of money to be just sitting there when we are, like, I'm losing this assistant and Jessica would lose her. She would have her assistant 2/3 of the time and I'd have it 1/3 of the time. We're not set up that way anymore. It needs to be focused where this person is just dedicated to these particular offices. You can't be sharing back and forth because it's just not going to work. And then part of it is if it's left up to Jessica and I, well, so now there's going to be animosity between the departments. So what team building is there? What morale booster is that? So now we're going against your work's more important than mine? I don't think so, because we're all here for a reason. That's why we're in these positions, is because things need to be done. And for money, to hear that money is just sitting there waiting in case something should happen when people are going to be losing their jobs, we have a hiring freeze, so why are we even worrying about that right now if we have a hiring freeze? And then there's other money that's out there. I saw there's a line item for the administrator and for the select board. We just named a new ATA, and now we're gonna get them an assistant when all of us are losing ours? Where's the fairness in that? I'm confused. I'm listening to what's going on. I'm new in this community, and honestly, it's been a real challenge working here. It honestly has, because I have not gotten the help to succeed. As I said, there's no succession plan for this office. So God forbid something happened to me, I don't know what you guys are gonna do. And having some consultant come in, there's a community right now, they still haven't had their classification hearing because the consultant they brought in screwed up everything and they haven't been able to get certified. So they haven't even sent their tax bills out. So that just means they're borrowing to be able to operate their town right now. And that's what happens when you bring people in that aren't committed. And you have committed people right now. and it's being toyed with. And I really, really hope that you guys really look at what is happening and where you can cut. And to be told everyone needs to feel the pain, that doesn't sit well with me, because that's not how you run a town. It's like you run a town with what are the essentials to keep this town running. You need money. And I work in an office, as well as the clerk and as well as the collector. We're all revenue-based, the building department, revenue-based departments that keep this going. It starts with the building department, growth. That's where we start, permits. And that's where it starts. So that's all I really have to say. And again,
Okay.
I just have a suggestion on the stuffing of envelopes. Can you get high schoolers or somebody to help you?
no,
with that?
because what happens is if they go to the wrong people, I'm going to hear, I already get a lot of grief from residents in this town. And no, I'm telling you, because she does it, she tracks it, it comes in, she tracks it, she has to look up the card, she prints it out for me. I even have her doing my permits now for me, and she sits on the CAMA system. This isn't something, because if you screw up someone's ownership, that's a big deal. How would you feel if the ownership on your property accidentally got changed and somebody else is now owning your property? You're not going to be happy. That's the importance. It's a very particular office. It's confidential, so you can't just have anyone in. We work with a lot of confidential information. It's your personal information we work with, so you just don't want any eyes on it. That's why I have cleaned that office. I don't know if any of you remember, I've cleaned that office, and there's rarely anything on surfaces anymore, because I don't feel that people should be able to come in and look at other people's personal information.
Yep, I agree.
How do you handle a lot of the assessing of the bigger commercial properties? Is that where you get a lot of the help with the consulting part?
I get help with him for everything. It's not just the big commercial, it's residential, it's everything. It's just going straight across the board. So what happens is, and I don't want to get into this because this isn't the forum for it, but there's certain things and requirements that we have to meet for the state. And to do that, you have to go through everything and check values on all properties, and it's all based on the market. And that's where we start with it. And that's why ownership is so important in changing it and making sure that you capture everything.
Would there be a time down the road, Cheryl? You know, I worked in municipal, as you know,
Yeah,
25
yeah.
years, and you know, I really appreciate. I take your comments pretty seriously,
Mm-hmm.
because I almost think of any town department, it's the assessors that can really generate some revenue growth, and that's what we need now. more
I
than
look at it
ever.
as a game.
And
I enjoy it, but if I can't do it, I'm only one person.
so would there, you know, I always, when I talked to all the assessors I worked with, they always needed to have assistance from consultants with
Mhm.
personal
Yep.
and with commercial, but do you think there'd be a time as you get more experience that you could cut down on the residential side and that figure could possibly?
It's not a percentage designated to resident. It's just an overall. It's not just
General.
for that. It's just an overall, just getting through everything and being able to submit everything to the state. And part of it is this year we're going into a recertification year in fiscal year 28. So that's what I'm gearing up, because now all personal properties have to be inspected. So I have to have the consultant go out and do that, because I will not have time to do that. And I'm hoping in the interim, while he's doing it, he's going to capture more growth, because not all businesses put in that form of list like they're supposed to. So I'm hoping he can find more growth out there once he's out there. So in answer to your question, I don't believe that is a number that, and it's very conservative. That 20,000 is very conservative.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the only way of funding town departments, because is through the budget. There's not grants that come and help town hall offices do it. There's no Friends of Town Hall to raise money for us.
Friends
There's
of the
no,
assessors?
we could, we could.
I don't have many of those here.
So, I mean, this is it. If any budget here is to be increased back, to give the support that the offices are used to having, it has to come through the budget. I mean, basically, this is it. We don't have workarounds in town hall. This is it. We get funded to do the job, or as Cheryl has said, you fund me less and it's more difficult to do my job. That's one reason we did talk about whether being closed one day a week. We said that for the 3 buildings, senior center, the library, and town hall. And they've been able to work things out with senior center and library that they don't, they're able to work it out so they don't need to close one day a week. I don't know that we want to close to the public one day a week either, but I'm just trying to say we don't have the same workarounds if this is something that we want to continue to have this building open.
Personally, I
There is a
don't
problem
think,
with the support in town hall right now.
personally, I
absolutely.
don't believe closing the town hall for one day is gonna make a difference, because all that is us, it's not gonna fix the it's not gonna solve the problem that we have, because we still have the same work to do. And I'm not gonna be able to get the work done that I need to, whether the town hall's closed or not. And I can almost imagine how it's going to play out, is that the residents are going to come to the door, they're not going to be able to go in. So what they do is they'll go home, and then they start calling us, and they call us, and they call us. They don't leave messages, they just continuously call back. I have had people where I'm trying to help another resident that is standing in front of me, and I am not exaggerating, the same person will call me back 10 times. So I don't see how closing town hall will fix, and expecting us to be there to work.
That person will still have the questions and they'll just find another time
Exactly.
to come see
And
you,
there's
so.
the same amount of work. when
It's-
you're
It's still the
closed
same
and
amount of work, it's not gonna go away.
Yeah. And it's important that your office be funded properly, because as we were talking, you're the one who generates revenues. And
Right.
if you're not, you're working on other tasks, and then you can't, there could be missed opportunities.
And like I said, I really hope that this really gets with a fine tooth, because I'm sure there's money there somewhere, because like I said, I've been listening to these meetings, and I hear money just sitting there just in case. And we're in a time of year that just in case these need to be utilized. Yes, Peter?
My question was, for the person that was helping you, that salary is the 11,792?
Yeah.
Is that the one that I'm looking at?
Yes,
Just
that's
making
what
sure
she
that's the right
would
one?
go, yep, that's what
And
she.
that's how many hours? That's 10?
10
Mhm.
hours,
Okay.
yes. It's
So that
very-
means no benefits.
She takes no benefits from us. She does a great job, and she takes what I give her because she's hungry. She wants to work. She enjoys what she's doing. She wants to be a part of it. And I've even said to her, "Do you really want to be a part of this? So you might want to rethink this." So I'm being honest with her. So yeah. So hopefully. And like I said, for Jessica and I to share someone, I don't see that working, because Linda, she's a clerk. She takes over for, and Jessica can speak for herself, but her and I have spoken, and it just, I don't see us sharing somebody. It's not gonna work. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So, ditto.
All right, you can go.
So, the glaring cut that I have is Kim's position is cut in half. So that essentially puts the kibosh on the succession plan that I've been working on for the last 15-plus years, if her position is to go altogether. The other problem I have is, come on, Kim. The other problem I have is there's way too much work in my office for 1.5 positions. We do all of the property real estate, personal property, excise, boat excise, water and sewer billing, and the water and sewer billing is handled primarily solely by Kim. When we changed collection systems to Vadar, Kim took that bull by the horns because it's a miserable process to get water and sewer to convert over into the collection system. And she handles the majority of that. We've looked numerous times at outsourcing our bill printing and sending our bills. Right now, it would cost us 25 cents per bill to send real estate, personal property, excise, and 28 cents per bill to send water and sewer. And that's in addition to that, it's plus postage. We, doing this in-house, we have eyes on all of our bills. We pick up on most errors that have occurred, whether it's a property's changed hands or someone has died and oops, that's going to the daughter or son, or there's been an abatement granted. Kim pulled that one because, you know, they just had an abatement, we need to reprint that. And my point there is we get bills into the hands of our people. We have a very small percentage that are returned by the post office compared to many of my colleagues. I mean, I have some friends who have said to me, yeah, I have probably 10% of my bills returned. And I mean, I can't even imagine that. And Kim is our resident stalker. I think pretty much everybody in town uses Kim when they need to find somebody, because she's just really good at it. So looking at outsourcing for our bill pay, or our bill printing and mailing, the cost savings was not enough to justify the hit to potential real estate. Real estate revenues. So our property tax levy this year is $986. 1% of that. So if we go with 1% of real estate uncollected, that's $157,629.86 that you need to cut from the budget, because you will not have that revenue. That's a big number. My collection rate is 99.971%.
Wow.
It
Yeah.
is the highest in the state.
We are the highest in the, we have the
She's a
highest.
stalker.
Yes.
She is.
Right.
She is. So,
Wait till you pay your bill.
yeah. Well, and we work with people too. We understand. People have, things come up and people have issues, and we work with payment plans and that type of thing. Other collectors across the state, they say to me, "You're nuts." We don't have time to do that, and it pays out for us to do that. But so the same premise can be used for excise tax. That's almost $1 million. Water and sewer, that's going to be over $3 million this year with the rate increases. And the other thing we lose is institutional knowledge of 20 years. I was hired in April, or I was elected in April of 2006, and I hired Kim in May of 2006. And we have worked cross-train, and I've worked, make sure we're cross-trained. And, again, like Cheryl said, the place you hit isn't your revenue-generating departments. I mean, Cheryl may generate the revenue. I collect, 78% of all of our revenue is the tax levy. Add excise and then water and sewer, that's 84% of the revenues generated in this town. So I'm worried about that. Questions?
One of the things that's not, it's kind of in here, and I think now it's automatically in your salary, we don't do, we're not doing the stipend anymore, is risk management
Yep,
and all the stuff that you're doing on this side.
yep. Well, it's just the risk management.
Well, the risk management.
Yeah.
And there's quite a bit to that. How many hours you think you spend on that?
I spend, on average, about 4 hours a week with insurance,
With
in
insurance?
one manner or another.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've just finished doing most of our renewal apps because if we got in the renewal apps that they sent to me by March 20th, we'd get a 1% reduction in our annual premium for property and casualty. So I made that happen. But yeah, I mean, there's a good amount to be done there.
Yeah, yeah.
So was it cutting Kim's hours or?
Yes.
In half, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
my position would go from a full-time 37 and a half hours to a part-time position
With no benefits.
with,
Oh, we didn't talk about that.
No.
Why wouldn't it? It would be.
I thought it'd
Well,
be so
Did we
many
cut it-
hours to be
did we cut it in half?
benefits.
Yeah, she did.
Yes, it was cut in
No.
half.
Yes, it was.
$22,000
Yes, it is.
off of my salary. So, yes.
28,
No, you'd be-
no, 28, 232 from last
Okay.
year.
Mhm.
Yeah, if that's how.
Half of her salary, yeah, is,
I mean, I can also assure you that if I am cut from full-time to part-time, I will not be working for the town of Hadley because I am the carrier of insurance for my family, and this is my primary income. So if this is to be cut, I will no longer be working for the town of Hadley. And in that situation, in my opinion, would be a gigantic loss because Susan and I have been working together for close to 20 years.
Oh, I was gonna ask you how long.
over
We-
20 years.
We have
now,
been working
yeah.
together for 20 years.
20 years.
Yes. And from day one, I have been the succession plan. I school choiced my son into Hadley with the plan that he would be graduating in 2026, and she said, "That's perfect. That's the year that I'm planning to retire." And that was when a Mason was in my stomach.
Yes.
So this was all something that has been ongoing and planned for 20 years.
Yeah.
So to disrupt that now, when it is within the amount of time to Susan retiring, if that was to happen, as of the retirement date, you would have no experienced collectors in that office.
And let me just point out, so I told you property tax level is 15 million and change. 1% is $157,000. Think if you took your collection rate down to 85%. That's almost $2.4 million that you're going to have to cut out of a budget. It's a scary prospect. It makes me nervous as a taxpayer.
The numbers are big.
They
And-
are big. They are
And
big.
also, obviously, I mean, I did watch the March 9th meeting in which the select board presented the budget. And there was discussion, great questions asked by Peter about when folks are leaving a position, when someone new comes in, I could see a 10% increase, but we're bringing them in at this significantly higher rate of pay. And Pam asked the great question of, so the folks that have been there for years and years, you're bringing in people that are making as much, if not more, than them.
With probably less experience.
With less experience.
Yeah.
And the whole takeaway from that was, well, Amy, we should really be valuing the employees that we have. And we should really be trying to keep them because, as Jennifer spoke and said, well, municipal employees, they're really difficult to find.
And that's
So
true.
by all means, let's get rid of someone who has worked for the town, who doesn't live in town. But I feel like Hadley is my town because I care about the community. By all means, let's let someone with 20 years worth of institutional knowledge go.
I know everybody who walks in the door.
We know every single
you
person
know,
that walks
I
in the
mean,
door.
yeah.
I've driven to people's houses to collect payments.
Yep.
Again, I will do what it takes
Yeah.
to bring
You usually
in.
get paid.
Yes,
you.
she
Drive
does.
into
Yes,
the
she
driveway.
does.
Do they deadbolt the door?
They do, tend
Actually,
to.
we have our shut-ins that we will pick up regularly for.
That's
that.
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
You go above and beyond. It's
We do. We go
We do.
above and beyond to try to make people feel as though, we are there for the taxpayers.
DoorDash for taxes.
That is who pays our salaries. So we are there for the taxpayers. Closing one day a week, as Cheryl indicated,
Oh.
is, in my opinion, it's not an
All they're
option.
gonna
The
do is
phone-
move what that,
well, the
half
phone
of
will
that day
s-
to a different day, and you're
Thank
still
you.
gonna have.
But
It's
the
like
phone
having
will
a
ring.
yes.
Over the weekend, I go through emails and I answer people back all weekend long, and I answer phone calls and that type of, or I return phone calls, because if I don't, Monday you're already behind the 8 ball. You
know that
just
feeling.
can't do
It's
it.
similar-
Day off, you got 800
Thank you.
emails sitting
And it's
there.
similar
Well,
to
and
when you
that's
have
it.
a holiday. We have a
Yeah.
Monday holiday, Tuesday we come in, we have all of the work from Monday and all the work from Tuesday.
And 2 days worth of mail.
And 2 days worth of
Yeah.
mail. So closing for a day would not assist us in any way. And I also think it would not be in the best interest of the taxpayers. They want to be able to come in.
And-
They want to be able to get help when they need it.
I've been in town hall on a Saturday catching up on things, and people bang on the door because they see my car. And I answer the door. But that's what we do. So
So, obviously, I understand that there are budget restraints. I completely understand that. But in the situation where you have a revenue generating department that brings in more than 75% of the revenue, to alter that in any way, I cannot imagine is in the best interest of the town or the taxpayers. Because anyone that walks in off the street, they don't have the institutional knowledge that I have, that we have, that allows us to have the collection rate that we have. And any small percentage of loss of revenue is just going to snowball into additional cuts for other departments. And it's going to be a landslide.
and Paul's done this. You know that. Yeah.
And again, I mean, I handle all of the water and sewer billing. That has been my baby for 15 years.
And she can have it.
It's a real,
Take the phone calls from all the complaints.
yes,
we do, yes.
yes, I take the phone
We
calls.
both do that. Yeah.
Yes, but I take the phone calls, but the water and sewer module it's a real beast, but again.
it's a bear to work with.
It's a real bear to work with, but again, bringing in the revenue is the most important part, and I make every effort to do that, not only in respect to current year taxes, but I also make a good faith effort to even bring in revenues from previous fiscal years that are in tax title.
Yeah.
So I have collected
It's easier to, they stop by first floor.
in the last
Makes
3
my job
years.
easier. Yep.
In the last 3 years, I have collected over $52,000
That's in tax title.
of tax title dollars that would not have been collected for lack of my stalking, searching for people, finding people who that person is deceased.
Yep.
I will try to find people the best I can, but I have managed to bring in $52,000 worth of tax title dollars that is money sitting on the table that should be collected, and I will do whatever it takes to bring that money in. So I don't know how much more I can advocate for myself, but if you have any questions,
Pretty good job.
Doing a fine job.
please feel free and ask me any
The
questions.
water and sewer that we, I think it's in the revenues, Linda, where the enterprise fund pays into. That's correct. Enterprise, because she's collecting water and sewer bills. we're paying
Yes, the
into it.
chargebacks
Chargebacks.
from water and sewer. Yes, a higher amount of the collector salaries are in that chargeback
Yes.
than there are in other administratives.
It's accounted
personnel.
for.
Yeah, they have a higher, I have that, I can't think of it, but, because
Oh.
I only work those numbers once a year. But if you're
Yeah.
interested in seeing what that is, I can get that to you, because I have a worksheet that I do. But yes,
Yeah.
we do a sort of a percentage of town hall expenses and certain salaries. We back out collector, and we put them at a much higher rate and put them back
Yeah.
in, so yes.
Now, has that, I know that there was for a while, because I learned it way back with David Nixon, and there was a calculation.
That's it.
Yeah.
Has that, now has that, because all the increases of wages and things have increased, has that been adjusted at all? Or
Because
or-
they're percentages, they're automatically adjusted each
they're
year. So the formula is the same, but
It'll
the
still be
percentages
the
are
same.
higher.
Okay.
So, so they do vary a bit. But, yeah.
Okay.
And postage even. They do a lot of the postage, and then we have to do that rather than do a percentage of our postage. They can tell me exactly how many invoices they send out for
Yes.
water and sewer, and we exactly bill that amount back to them in the chargebacks too.
Yes.
And that obviously increases because the postage just goes up every year.
Right.
Right.
At least
Unfortunately.
once.
Yeah.
6 months.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, if I'm making sure I'm looking at this, you are considered the water sewer bill coordinator? Is that what you are? Is that the title that I'm seeing for salary?
No.
I
Assistant
just wanna-
collector, water sewer, water
Okay,
sewer.
that's what I was wondering
It
about.
is in here that way.
The title
Water-
is,
Yeah, water, sewer.
No,
bill.
actually, that part of my title is not part of my title
but
any
that's your,
longer.
but that's the
okay. That's
your
salary,
salary.
but that's the salary
That is
I'm
my
looking
salary,
at.
yes,
That's- I
yes.
just
My
wanted to-
position is the
Yes.
assistant
Okay.
collector is what my
I
actual
didn't know
title
you- I
is.
didn't know you dropped that.
The water and sewer billing coordinator, which was a apportionment, was added on to my position because I strictly deal with that as the assistant collector. When the Collins Center performed their wage study, they included all of those additional duties into my basic job description of the assistant collector. So they became part of my job, not a addition to. They became my responsibility in full.
Yeah, and I mean, quite honestly, you went to 1.5 positions in my office, somebody at the water department, water and sewer department would need to take the billing back because there just is not enough time to do that as well. So, and then you have a whole other problem in DPW, so.
But those chargebacks, just to be clear on that, they go into the general revenues. It's not money that goes back to the collector,
Right.
and Kim's not paid out of that budget.
Right.
This is our town general fund budget, and then there's a chargeback. Much of it's based on their salary, and that's, comes back and is used as general revenues in the general fund budget.
Okay. I
Any of that?
don't have any other questions.
Thank you,
Well,
Sue. Thank you.
Not yet.
Good job.
Not now.
Thank you.
I will.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
See you, Kim.
Thanks.
Thanks, Paul.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
So before I piggyback off of everything Cheryl and Sue and Kim just said, I just wanted to make one clarification. If you go back to the assessor's
Okay.
budget, what her level services was, the $11,792 and the $10,010?
Yeah.
That $10,010 was actually taken from my assistant's line item.
Oh.
So that's why there's such a minor discrepancy there. So that $10,000 was taken out of my budget
Okay.
Shifted on to
onto
the
hers,
assessors.
onto the assessor. So I just wanted to clarify that. So it basically,
I can see it taken, going out of your budget.
well, from 30
Yeah,
to 20.
She's expressing it a different way, but the way you will see it here is a decrease in the assessor, and then you go over. I mean, Jessica's right, but you're not going to probably see it that way.
So my budget-
So the 30,000, if you go to the clerk's budget, this is page 29, 30,000, 31, 10,000, I don't know what happened to the $10 there, but basically, that was a $10,000 cut in that line.
Oh, that's not right. Just 7,000,
Yeah. So, they're,
difference is 7,000.
Oh, again,
they are
26.
somewhat equal numbers.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
No worries.
Think I got it.
So basically, I obviously am not in support of having my clerical wages slashed or shared with other departments. We all know when Janice was here, she was what I call the unicorn. She was here for so long, she was able to be my assistant clerk as well as the clerical help in the assessor's office, and that worked. I had her for 10 hours. Just having Janice for 10 hours, even as the assistant clerk, wasn't enough, so I had clerical help for another 10 hours. So my office has always had 10 hours of help. Dan and I knew, or predicted years before his retirement, that Janice is not going to be replaceable. I could understand if it was simply a secretary bouncing from office to office, but my assistant town clerk is basically me when I'm not there. She has all the powers and duties when I'm not there. So that's a huge difference being somebody just sitting at the desk and answering the phone. So basically, when my previous assistant, office assistant retired in August of 2024, I hired Linda Klemick as her replacement for those same 10 hours, with the intent of her becoming my assistant town clerk when Janice retired in January of 2025. When I appointed Linda as town clerk, I used the same hours and the same salary that was already in my budget. And that was with the bare minimum. So I have looked up the past 3 months Linda's average hours. Her average hours have been 18 hours. I am more than willing to reduce from the 20 hours to the 18 hours. Linda does not take benefits. She does not take insurance. But not to regurgitate everything that they've said, there's just too much to be done and not enough hours to do it. So if you slash that position, it's going to make things very difficult.
So she's at 20 hours
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
If you slashed it to 18 hours,
Mhm.
do you know what that difference is?
I mean,
Oh,
she makes like $26 an hour.
okay.
So this 30, 31 is her at 20 hours.
Correct.
That's 20 hours.
So it'd be 2 8. Paul's doing it in his head. I'll just wait for you, Paul.
Yeah, I can't do that in my head.
I guess I'm asking, 'cause-
Mhm.
About 1,000, right? Am I doing
so
it right?
are they,
How much an hour?
is,
When I
don't have
actually
to do it. Just
did
take
my
18,
budget,
20ths of
I was
that.
told not to touch the salary line items, just go for my expenses. So I'm just basically taking from what Linda and HR inputted in here for salaries.
30,
2,600?
31 divided by 20 times 8.
Math class.
so it was the 30, 31, that's the 20 hours, so then after it's been
would be
changed to the
27,020.
20,000 to the
They-
20,021
I said
dollars.
26.
Correct, because they gave those hours into the assessors.
Okay, so they
budget.
took,
That's why.
this person that was in your department to give to the assessors.
Correct.
That's
Half
what they
of,
did.
half her time.
Well,
This was a suggested solution.
I'm just trying to
They-
understand it.
no,
I don't
no,
care how you
yeah.
did it. I just understand, so I
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
what it is. So
Yeah.
however you do it, that's up to you. I'm just trying to understand that.
Exactly.
This clerk went from this person that was assisting you and went to the assessors to spend more time on the assessors.
that's what they wanted us to do.
Okay, that's what they wanted you to do.
That was a
Because the
suggestion.
situation we had before
Right.
worked, and Dan and I
Yeah.
realized it's not going to work in the future. It's not
Right.
sustainable to work in the future.
Okay.
So department heads have flexibility. It's harder in town hall because you can tell DPW or water, sewer, police, like this is how much we're taking out. And when we're dealing with town hall, we're going one by one, and how are we going to do that? I mean, if we were all a single budget, we would have a dollar amount and we could allocate it out. So one suggestion was, is that you share a position and reduce the overall budgets. If they decide they want to keep the same ones for a reduced one, or you decide you want to put money back in, that's all fine. And we have to just at the end of the day balance our budget. So what comes out of one place,
But with all
or
due
what goes
respect,
in.
Linda,
Yeah.
you didn't ask me, you just took the hours out. You didn't ask me anything. You said what you do with it is up to you.
No, I didn't. No, we didn't ask people about.
You
Well,
just
I don't
told
know
me
what
we
you
took
mean.
your hours out. You said this is what you have to work with.
Well, I work with dollars, and you can find the dollars, you can
So
spend the
that would
dollars
mean
the way you want.
reducing the help I have now
Oh, yes.
by a third.
Oh, yes.
And I'm saying that's
Oh, no,
not going to work.
no, that's clear, that's clear. The only question is as to whether this is going to be one person taking all the hours between the two, or whether two people are going to be reduced, or yet another
But if that was
solution.
the
I
case,
don't
it'd be
know.
one person at 30
I-
hours.
I don't know. I'm not running your departments. I'm balancing a budget, so this is, and this is where you all are coming in. If you have a better way to do it, I'm all ears.
You know, and I've always joked in the past when I look at all these like DPW, public safety, my budget is like a drop in the bucket. But for the services that my office provides to this town, with elections, with town meeting, with vitals, the public records requests, the ethics, it's invaluable to the residents.
Yep.
And I don't know if any of you have stopped in my office during any election year. It's not a pretty sight. I've already certified over 1,000 pages of petitions for the election in November. People think election day, that's it. They don't realize the months of prep before, the weeks of reporting afterwards.
Your mail-ins now too?
Don't,
Yeah.
Won't even go there. Yeah.
So, Jess, you were saying earlier when Dan was here
Mm-hmm.
and Janice, it worked to have. it
Janice was
with-
here for over
between the
35 years. So
assessors
before I
and-
even got the position, Janice was my predecessor's assistant. And then she migrated over to the assessor's office.
Mhm.
So her original salary, initially when I first started, she was working 5 hours paid by the select board, 5 hours paid by my office, and 10 hours paid by the assessor. So she wore many hats. When we got a different town administrator with a new secretary, I absorbed 5 of those hours. So it was 10 hours coming from my office, 10 hours coming from the assessor's office. Janice was so knowledgeable in both, she was able to do both. But I still needed assistance in my office. That's why I was allowed to hire Pat, who was my clerical and election coordinator, for those additional 10 hours. So I always had a combined 20 hours.
Okay.
And by reducing these now, even by slashing by a third, not gonna work.
And then it was brought up, when Cheryl was talking to how, even if you agreed to it, how would you work out the hours?
Well, and that's where I kind of feel really bad with Dan, because even though Dan was paying for 10 of those hours for Janice, I was using probably 18 of those. So it wasn't fair to that office, especially during the busy times, the town meetings and the elections.
Mhm.
And we played nice in the sandbox and okay, quid pro quo and all that, but with the amount of work needed to be done in both our offices, it'd be an underlying,
And you being on the first floor, it's been talked about, what do you feel about the office closing one day a week?
I absolutely disagree with it.
Okay. I feel like if anybody feels like it would be a benefit, it would be these 3 departments, because you're on the first floor. You're the ones that see the most.
Oh, we're in the line of fire, yep.
You're the ones that
We're the front
see
line.
the most residents. So.
I mean, and there have been on occasions where I've had to certify elections or town meetings where I close my door. I'm just like, please knock. But that doesn't stop them from knocking, doesn't stop them from calling, doesn't stop them from emailing. And like they said, that we're committed to this town. A lot of times we go above and beyond on the things we do. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into town hall at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night because a family was leaving for vacation and they didn't have their kids' passports or birth certificates. Or during COVID, when people wanted to get married and their marriage intentions and we were closed, I went to them. So there's a lot of stuff that the people in town hall go above and beyond doing. And by cutting the few support hours that we have, it's gonna make that impossible. And it is an election year this year.
It is.
Do you want to do registrars too?
Yeah. we want it.
Registrars, whatever questions you have for me, I ain't got no control. It's based on the price of the elections for the software, the printing, the programming.
So why were your office supplies down so much?
For what year? Last year?
No, it's
Well,
dropping from
this year.
55 to
Uh,
1,500.
1,500.
That,
That should not
we
have.
threw money in there when we increased it at the fall town meeting, but not knowing how many elections there were going to be with the overrides coming up. I just threw it in.
I honestly don't have the registrar's
Okay,
budget.
here you go.
right now.
So when we increased it at fall town meeting, I said, how much do you need if we have to run? You said 2,500 election. So I put some extra money in your.
For ballots for the election?
Offices.
You said it takes 2,500 to run an election, in case we had to run a.
Printing apps, there's no way we would have brought that.
No, over here.
Yeah, but
This year is 5,500, or 5,000. Somewhere I put in 5,000 extra for running 2 extra elections, in case in '26 we had 2 more overrides, and we might have 1 more override. So I put in extra money in the fall.
So basically, if you combine those 2 line items, the printing and the office supplies, you're gonna see it's 10,500, and we reduce that to 8,000 in 2027. Those two line items, the printing and the office supplies, at the 2020, at
Okay, so
26
it's up 1,000 then.
is
Okay, all right.
10,500.
Went from
If you
55
combine the two for 2027, that's
Oh, that's it,
8,000.
that's it, okay.
So the difference there,
Look at the two lines. The two lines together. If you look at the total,
I mean, unfortunately for this,
I forget.
I don't have any control. I mean, I reuse, we share office supplies.
Well, that's it.
We are at our bare minimum. I cannot skimp on unfunded mandates by the state
Yeah.
with our auto mark. I cannot, and I have actually been very obscenely conservative when it comes to ordering our ballots. Because technically, for every election, we're required to have 3 ballots for every registered voter. Because they have 3 strikes, they can vote up to 3 times if they make a mistake on their ballot. So we're technically required to have that. I've calculated the people that have showed up at past elections, and I order that way, which is, I can't tell you the thousands we've saved doing that.
Can you tell me, because it has come up at other meetings, and they talked about doing another override, and I was suggesting we do it at the same time, if they're going to do something, the same time that they're doing the election.
I have
Because-
always given the select board the deadline dates to put a question, whether binding or non-binding, on the ballot, whether it's to get public opinion. A lot of times everyone's been to a select board meeting, oh, we need more information, we need to
Yeah.
get people's opinion, either binding or non-binding on that ballot. It'd be no additional cost.
No additional
We'd have
cost.
the same workers, we'd have the same programming, we'd have the same ballots.
If we do a different date, and they said, oh,
Completely
I
different
wanna
election.
do a different date, that's gonna cost
Double
us.
everything.
Yep, different election.
So, and per, like, say they threw one during the summer, how much that would be?
My average election is
Average.
about 5,000 to 6,000.
5,000-6,000.
With the software,
Yeah.
with the programming, with the ballots.
Yeah.
For state elections and primaries, the state covers the cost of the ballots, but we still have to cover the cost of all the programming for our voting machine, for our automock machine.
Okay.
I've also, I don't know if many of you noticed, when you go to vote, in the past, we've always had a check-in and check-out table.
Yeah.
I've tried to save there because the state gave us an option that we can eliminate the checkout table. So I tried to save funds there. And I also have in a separate line item in, I don't know what category it's in, where we get reimbursed by the state for the early hours that we have our state elections, because our local.
it's in a separate, like a
Yep,
revolving
yep,
fund.
it's a revolving
It's a
fund. So
separate
our
fund.
normal elections are 9 AM to 8 PM.
Right.
Okay.
Special elections are normally 12 PM to 8 PM. State elections are 7 AM to 8 PM. So the state reimburses us for those first 2 hours. So every time the state reimburses us, it goes into a separate account, which I always like to have on hand in case the select board suddenly decides to throw an extra election on me. That way I don't have to ask for reserve from transfer. I can't say that if it sits there for 3 years and you question me, why haven't you used this? You know, so I do have that as an option as well.
Right.
With a
Yeah.
state election, are the poll workers paid by the town or
Poll workers,
even on a
constables,
state or federal
wardens,
election?
yep.
Okay.
So Jessica, when it's not a state, when it's just a town election, let's say we voted for something subject to subject to a debt exclusion, and then we have a debt exclusion, and they go to the ballot for that.
Mhm.
That's not 5,000, is that the one that's
Roughly.
2,000? Well, then I still don't, your budget's not high enough.
I mean, I don't think you guys realize how fiscally responsible I try to be in this office. We're at like the bare minimum.
Yep.
These guys come back from conferences, we have a bag full, we get our pens, we get our, haircuts,
Yeah.
all that stuff. We're very cautious on how we spend the residents' money.
Yep.
Fun.
And all of the programming and software, it's just, prices are just going up and up and up.
But, so, when you're looking at this, our biggest, the real concern is just that one, what we really, you want us to know is the one item is the under temporary wages.
The cler-
That's the
what I
one.
have on mine is clerical
Everything
wages.
else looks like
Yeah, yep.
it will be okay, both the registers and you.
I mean, there's been many times where I've had to kind of borrow from one line item to accommodate the other, which is fine as long as it's under the same
So
budget.
as long as we're not doing extra elections, this should cover it.
Yes,
Okay,
for the registrars.
right.
And my only complaint on the town clerk one is the temp wages for my assistant.
Okay.
I'd like that restored. Minus the 2 hours that I'm willing to sacrifice. because I appreciate, because I don't know if many of you know Linda Klemick. So, and you know my office, you know it has busy times, it has not so busy times. So there's gonna be the busy times, she's gonna work 30 hours a week. But then there's gonna be the slow times where she's gonna work 10.
So average.
So that's where it averages out, and again, she does not take any benefits, does not take any of the insurance, and she can do everything I have the duties and powers to do when I'm not here. So if I go on vacation for 2 weeks,
She
it's
can
not
post our meetings?
No, it's not a body in the
weeks.
office. I have
I'm just
I have
kid- I'm
5
just
going
kidding.
up. Okay,
just kidding.
but I'm just saying it's not somebody in the
I'm
office
just
just taking messages and telling people I'll be back. She can actually do everything. She can do the vitals. She can do the certifying. She can answer the questions.
She could post all the meetings.
She can post all the meetings. I mean, my office also takes a lot of revenue from other departments. I act as a payroll agent for the Board of Health. I collect the fees for the firearm permits for the police department. I collect all the fees for the zoning and planning. So there's a lot of stuff in my office, and I feel bad, and I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, but I've been in my position so long that I kind of take for granted everything that I actually do.
Yeah.
And just by having Linda there for the past year, where she's just like, I had no idea what this office did. So I kind of take a step back and kind of appreciate the fact that, okay, we do a lot.
Yep.
Any questions?
Do you have questions?
Later.
Later when he goes home.
You don't want to nominate your mom for a 10% raise? So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep, thanks.
Hello,
How you doing, Kayla?
I'm Kayla Lubriel for everyone who doesn't know me. I'm the conservation agent and land use coordinator. So I work for 4 different boards. I work for the Conservation Commission, the Planning Board, the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Community Preservation Committee. So I'm presenting the land use budget today, which we had combined the Conservation, Planning, and Zoning Board of Appeals budget the last fiscal year, which basically just streamlined things, makes it easier to pay bills, and we were able to condense some of these line items. So, I mean, I could go through the line items if that's helpful, but basically the salaries includes most of my salary. The other remaining 14% that's not covered by this budget is covered under the CPA fund. This budget also includes 5 hours of Terry's salary, who provides administrative support to the building department. She does a lot of like digitization of plans that we need to keep, that we're required to keep by state law. And then the other kind of big item in this budget is the planning services. So this is a contract, an annual contract that the planning board has with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. It's a set $10,000 each year, and they basically provide professional planning services. So that helps the planning board update their zoning bylaws, update any plans, just like planning consulting services. They're working right now on helping the planning board develop like a standard special conditions document that they can reference, in permits that they issue. Working on taking a look at the parking requirements and seeing if those can be updated. So in the absence of a town planner, they do a lot of that work. And the $10,000 is a set amount every year. As time goes on, that $10,000 gets you less and less. So we are proposing to just keep that level funded. We also have legal notices. Those are actually, we have filing fees for all of these boards. So the cost, those filing fees cover at least the cost of the legal notices and postage. And we have an overhead filing fee. It's a little different with conservation because we have the applicants pay directly for those legal notices. The only direct legal notice cost that the town pays is for things that require a public hearing, like zoning, bylaws. Those need to be advertised. They need to have a public hearing. They need to be advertised in a newspaper. Everything else is pretty much standard. We reduced the tuition in meetings a bit, cut it in half, and that was after it was cut when we combined all the budgets together. And dues, that reflects the cost of membership to 2 municipal conservation organizations that provide, free resources and materials, trainings, and that sort of thing. So I mean, if anybody has any questions.
Okay, so can you say again how much, so the top line item is your salary, right? That's because we have 1 employee that you do everything.
So it, yeah, 86% of my salary comes from here, and then 5
86,
hours.
thank
yeah,
you, that's what I wanted to say. 86% is
Mhm.
from here, and then the rest of it,
is from CPA.
CPA.
Yeah. And then this also covers 5 hours of another employee's salary who works part-time in a bunch of different departments doing like digitization and scanning and
It includes that?
yes, this
person?
includes that.
Line
Yeah.
That for top line? item?
5 hours of that person's. Yes, it includes that person
5 hours
Per week.
per week.
per week. Yeah.
So how approximately, I wonder how much that is, in dollars on this?
I don't have the number
Okay.
right here. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
The second one, salaries and members.
Mhm.
Who is that?
So that's the stipend that the planning board and ZBA receives. So this is mostly planning board. ZBA, they have a small stipend that sometimes they don't take. But yeah, this covers the stipend for the planning board. Yeah.
Okay.
And your tuition and meetings is going down $500, I
Mhm.
see. Is that gonna,
Um,
adversely impact?
If there's any turnover in commissioners, because a lot of what I've used this in the past for is one of these organizations conservation organizations that I'm a part of, they offer like a training certificate when you start for new commissioners or staff, and those cost money. So if there's any, new commissioners, they won't be able to maybe get that full training, which is the main impact that I'll see, but a lot of the, meetings that I go to or sort of resources that I use are like free webinars.
Really?
I try to, be conscious of the fact that we have like a limited budget, so I'm looking out for opportunities that don't cost necessarily a fee. Yeah, and
Like
they're,
our association, right, Linda?
Well, we have some that are more expensive than others, and some that are, we grab we never miss the UMass one, where we can stay in our own rooms, right? Yeah. No, she's found a few this year and has driven out to them, and that's been good, because
Yeah.
before it would have to be the planning board would have to figure out,
Right.
go, and you sort of have a dispersed sense of who's learned what, and this is very good to have someone central for these boards that will go and take care of this and share that knowledge among all the boards as she acquires.
and it helps with, the permitting process. I process permits or applications for permits and funding for all these boards, and it makes it easier to have one person that you send everything to, and it streamlines the process, takes less time, and people like having a person that they could call and is full-time at town hall. They don't have to, try to get a hold of somebody who's a volunteer and maybe, not checking their emails or,
How many hours are you? Are you 30?
I'm 35.
35 hours?
Mhm.
Linda, later can we see what, I was asking about the person that's 5 hours.
Yep.
What that
Yep.
breakdown is.
We could probably
What do
do
you mean
that
what the
math.
breakdown is?
How much does that equal?
How much
That's-
is
that's-
Terry's salary
that is
comes here?
hers.
Yeah,
I guess it'd be
I
around
don't
like
have that.
6-ish thousand. That's a rough
Yeah.
guess, but I mean, we could
Yeah.
do the math.
6,000?
I don't know, and that,
I mean, I could pull out my calculator.
I don't know. I don't know which, because she's on a different line, right? So I can't divide it out. Oh,
She's,
is it a separate
we're
line?
both on the salaries line.
Okay.
The other thing is, I was.
Yeah, it would be
because
about 5 or 6,000.
I think it is,
Between 5 or 6.
yeah, it's definitely 5 hours, and then
Mhm.
it's.
Okay. The other question would be is, because we all put them all into one, and David brought this up yesterday, and we talked about the stipends, and I think, looking at where this is, I believe it's, and she was saying that this is planning board and ZBA, what the stipends are, with that, which is ZBA, which is planning board, at the time, I remember way back when we talked about this, we got rid of all the stipends at one point, or we looked at it. Also, at the same time, all the insurance at that time.
Well, you had a standard you were applying, and then
Yeah.
that changes from year to year,
It-
right?
it- Well, we haven't.
I don't mean the standard, I mean who qualifies to,
For the insurance?
no, I
For the
think,
stipend? So
Right, right. Well, go ahead.
Okay,
I think
so-
I'm confusing you.
All right, so way back when we tried to lower the budget, we said, okay, we're gonna do away with all the stipends and at the same time do away with all the insurance, because
No.
some of the committees were also getting insurance. Well, at the time, we did that with just about everyone, I thought, except for, we really focused, the only one that was a really problem was the planning board, because they were actually our town planners at the time. I'm curious to what those expenses are now. Is that still, are we still in the same boat? Do we still have the same, are we still grandfathered in? You know, are we still offering just those boards, the insurance, and are we just offering the stipends? Or has things changed?
I don't know how much I can talk about, Amy, because you're talking about who's taking insurance, and we don't do that with anyone. But I will
No.
tell you that the.
You could have told me that it's still grandfathered in,
So,
or they're not.
yeah, so no new member coming onto any board elected is entitled to benefits.
Okay.
The grandfathering is
It's still there.
Is still in place.
It's still in place.
Yes,
That's
so.
Nothing's changed. Okay, so that's on the insurance. I don't need to get particular, I just
Okay.
need to know if there's anything
Yeah.
that's changed, if it's still.
Nothing has changed.
Okay.
And I
But
can't,
this-
and I don't even know specifics, because you're talking about two different boards. I really, I mean, it's knowable, but,
Okay,
yeah.
so the other day, also I don't know, because as far as I knew, at one point, it was only gonna be the planning board. The ZBA has some type of a stipend, I'm not sure what that is, and also the Board of Health, someone last night said there was a stipend. So I thought it is something we should look at. David mentioned it last night, and we
It's
should be
funny, I
talking
don't think
about
Board of Health
something.
has one anymore.
They don't.
So, I can be better prepared to talk on both of those.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to bring them up, and
for
this
another
was the
time.
line item that I
Right.
noticed it.
Right, so you want
Board
it,
of Health one might be for the animal inspector,
Okay.
possibly.
Well,
okay, oh, yes, it's a different one, so it's not a
I think
board,
it
it's
goes
not a
through the
board
of
stipend,
Health
yes.
To the animal inspectors.
Right, so it's not for the board members.
Okay.
I think you're right about that.
If we can look to see which,
Sure.
if these are then if there is not one, or see if there are any others. I'd like to know what's out there. I mean, too, and David brought it up, and we're going to
Right.
probably have to have that discussion again, because it is something he has to discuss, so
Right.
I'd like to talk about it.
That's fine. Yeah.
Then again, down the road, I'd like to, it'd be add 'em all back. Right, everybody deserves something. But
Even you
anyways,
guys.
We don't have that money.
When I started on Finance Committee, we got $100 a year.
That's, yeah.
I know.
That's what it was.
And it never went up.
That would pay for
That'll
my
just
health.
cover for the paper for everything that we copied
Gas-
for all the minutes.
Gas mileage.
Gasoline.
When he brought it up yesterday, I was wondering, how are we gonna come up with that money? Are you thinking we're gonna add them all back in? But I think he was talking about
Yeah.
what was left.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yes, complete the process that was started and see if there's any reason to have any exception at this time. I don't think it's been viewed at even in that way for a few years.
Yeah, I don't think
So-
it has been talked about.
So that's fine. Yep. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank
job.
you.
I
Thank
yeah,
you.
questions. Thanks, Gail. Sorry that you were last.
That's okay.
She's not last.
Oh, Linda.
Golly, didn't we?
Well, Linda's got
Apparently not enough.
Linda has several hats.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing, Pam.
Oh, you move it over.
Well, now
So
she's
now
in the hot
you're
seat.
no more Linda, you're actually, now you're department head.
Okay.
My assistant was cut in half.
What page we on?
Page 27.
Page
Okay.
27.
And I'm very unhappy about that. And as one involved in preparing the budget, I don't know what we do about that or any of them. However, I have a fabulous assistant treasurer now. I too am looking towards retirement, and not too distant future. And this would be succession planning, here. This is be a person who's an excellent candidate to be a full-time treasurer. To cut her hours in half would be, she's now coming up on her third year of three years of the courses that you need to be a treasurer. So this is her third year already. It's flown by. It would be a terrible loss to the town not to have a qualified treasurer to step in. I've had multiple part-time assistant treasurers over the years. It's not just a math skill, it's not just a people skill or a phone, so many, or a trust, because this is someone who is on the phone with every single bank, has their signature to every single bank. They have authorization on probably $15 million worth of the town's funds at a time. This is a very trusted position, and we've had people come and go that I wouldn't even put on a single bank account. Having, it took a while. So, we'll wait a few weeks and then do it. And after a few weeks, I'm like, I can't. And we have an excellent person that we do not want to lose. In all of these, and this includes the collector, and I don't know if they're, where we've cut it down to half, is with the hopes that maybe there could be shifting, but this half position together with this half position to save that person. That's not the preferred way at all. That isn't what we want. This is an office also that requires full-time attention. There's still some areas where I have not been able to get her trained into yet. Part of her coming on board full-time was at the point where I went into the finance director position. So I spend now very little time doing the actual treasurer work, and I do an awful lot of time working on the budget. A lot of time I spearhead the town's audit. I work with the auditors and gather all the information and do that. I do the continuing disclosure. I do what's the other something? Anyways, there's other things. Basically, if it's got a dollar sign, it's being forwarded to my office, and this was to help the. As you know, we've had turnovers in town administrators, and it helps them to get up to speed if you can remove that financial, that if they had to come in and work on the budget, I don't know how they would take care of anything else in town, or get trained in that area. So this has been an aid to the administrators, that it's not a problem for me to do it. This is my 20th budget, my 20th Hadley Town budget. All but 5 years were direct hands-on work with the budget. I like it. I've enjoyed it. But budgeting is not probably anything that we're going to pass on to the next town treasurer. It is not treasurer responsibility. It does belong with, it could be with the finance director. How this is going to go in the future under the new organization is up to select board to figure out. But I just wanted to say that I am not at all happy either about this happening. I'm not happy about sharing her with another department. I have shared with departments multiple times, with HR over the years, and there is, as was described, always a divided loyalty thing. And there's always one office is busy and another one then gets busy, and where are we working today? I thought you were going to be here at 1:00, but I had to stay till. It's a very difficult thing to share with other departments, and I'm very sorry that Town Hall has found itself in this position, and I'm very sorry that I seem to be at the center of it, and people are upset with me, and I'll tell you, this has not been an easy year for me at all, at all, and so. Here we are. This is now going to be in your lap, so you're going to hear very excellent. I am so impressed with our department heads and the presentations they've made to you the last few weeks. I am so impressed
I've learned a lot. I really have.
How they've represented themselves and how they've advocated for their departments and their staff, and how they've been able to explain what the work that they're doing for the town. I know that they're here to speak to you, But I hope they're also speaking to the town. They're listening to see what goes on their behalf, and what is being done on their behalf day after day. Some things are very visible, and some things are completely invisible. There's even a difference between town offices and town hall, where you see all the hubbub is here, but a lot of and work is getting done visible. A lot of other work is getting done upstairs, not so visible. Who cares about whether? Oh, I know the other thing I was going to say. The bond, the whole going through the bond rating process, it was a large part of my work in this past year as finance director, which would not have been as treasurer. That would have been town administrator in the previously. And as you know, Amy, we had a ball. I mean, I thought that was really fun, but it takes a lot of work, and it was a lot of work, and it involved getting an audit up to speed and complete that wasn't ready, and the auditors said they could take care of it. They said they could take care of it for $8,000, but they needed another month. I spent the next 2 weekends, and I took care of it for the town. I think there has been a lot of value added to my being the finance director as opposed to just the town treasurer. But being the finance director means less of being treasurer, which means more of a need for the assistant treasurer and having her ready to step into treasurer. Where it goes from there, I don't know. But in the meantime, I know she needs more time. She wants more time with me there training her, and she is very interested in stepping into that position.
How many hours
So
does she
she's-
work now? Sorry about.
Just a quick question. She's totally out of the building department, I take it now?
We'll do the building department budget next, but she is, by the books, she's totally out of it for 26. You'll hear that we've had a lot of disruptions in that department, and this is someone who worked in building and construction for years, worked in the buildings inspection for the years. This is the very same person. She's so incredibly multi-talented that she's also been able to step in as needed during to help resolve some issues in building department, which is where I am now once again feeling that tug of, okay, you'll go down and do that 2 hours each morning and then come back up, and here we are 2 in the afternoon, still on the phone about building inspection stuff. So I'm feeling pretty stressed already without even getting into 27. Of the loss of support is very significant to all our town hall departments. And like I said, we don't have a Friends of Town Hall. Maybe we could start a Friends of Town Hall.
Good luck.
We would be agreeable to that.
You're gonna get.
I don't know what kind of fundraiser or program, or I don't know if we could give you any fun. Fortunately, we have Park and Rec in our building, so maybe we could find some fun.
Bake sales.
But
I don't wanna.
we're in a predicament.
Yeah, Linda hit on it, and I don't wanna stop you from asking questions about the treasurer budget, but just a more general overview. I think everybody's now, and I agree with what she said, like the department heads are super impressive to me as far as their advocacy, and I think you're all starting to get a clearer picture of just how difficult this is going to be and just how much it has sucked. Being in this position and having to sit with the select board and have them make these decisions as far as the cuts go. Having to hear like Jessica try to shave 2 hours here and there. I'm sorry, like she is crazy busy. She does all of the things that she said, and she probably forgot half the stuff that she does. But you're not going to hear anything different from any of the other department heads, and I know you haven't heard anything different from the ones who've come before, because I've been at all the meetings. So, I said it in the beginning when we started this, just so everybody was aware that we are playing a zero-sum game at this point. So anything that we move around as far as money goes, you got to take it from somewhere else. The budget's balanced, so it's an awful situation that we're all in right now. So, but again, like Linda said, I hope that the public has seen, and I hope you have seen, and you're not going to see anything different next week when we finish up these meetings. That you have a lot of people who work their tails off for this town, and they deserve to have jobs.
They go above and beyond.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
So is there anything I can answer about the budget?
Is she full-time, supposed to be full-time for you?
Yes.
But we will not be losing her. We are just shifting her.
She's losing a half.
She's taking, moving half.
She's
but
going
it-
in half, just
But
as.
the other half is going into a different budget.
The other
This
half
is,
had-
this is,
the
uns-
other half had a full.
Well,
a
yeah, this is
full-time person
unsettled.
also.
It's
Yeah.
unsettled, but
Yeah.
that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
So what's
Right.
her other half? You're losing her for half your time. Where is she going?
I think it's.
probably, I think that she would be
In the
a strong
building maintenance.
a strong candidate for taking the maybe a half-time position in the building inspection office.
That was, I believe, a full-time position,
It was a full-time position.
so that one was cut completely.
Yep.
And again,
And that's
I
where
think
she
as
came-
Cheryl said, that's another revenue.
Yeah,
Building.
Yes, she did.
Yep.
First building,
Yep.
it's in here, inspection.
32. No,
So,
that's public
which
safety.
is, which,
Might as well jump
Mike's,
right into it.
come
We're
on,
gonna do it.
come on down. Let's-
Which one, the
let's-
inspections? Oh,
Inspections
because-
is the last one. Are you done? Is there anything more you want to have questions on the town? Or if you do, you can always ask me later. so
No,
we'll
I just
move on.
wanted, I was just looking to see where,
What page?
35.
well, yeah, and you said you have,
You're quick.
do you have the company that you're gonna use for the HR consulting?
Yes, we do.
And that is a straight 20.
It is pretty much a straight 20. It was a shade one way or the other. To start with, because we already have to, we're squeezing it out of, because we still have money in the HR. We're actually going on board in the next few weeks. There is an onboarding fee of, this is going to be roughly 7,000 to onboard with the company and get all of our information to them.
That's
And
just
then,
one time though, right?
a one time, yes. And then 20,000 a year. And what I didn't realize, it was like, okay, the 20,000 is due now too.
Well, where are you gonna get the 7?
We don't need the 27 in the 27 budget.
Oh, you already have 7.
Because we're gonna be on board in
26.
26, so that 7 will be out of the way.
Okay.
And then, so this is going to be an annual fee, so only the 20,000. For 26, for where, like, for the rest of this year,
Mm-hmm.
because we've already closed the HR department, we'll have the 27
Oh,
out of
yeah,
there
yeah, yeah.
to put into the fees.
That makes sense. And what will that take care of? Is that the benefits?
That is taking care of the directly dealing with the employees as far as them selecting their benefits, changing their W-2 forms. Maybe, hopefully they can go in and do their own onboarding.
It's all,
when
yeah,
they're
it's all
hired.
automated onboarding and I believe offboarding as well. So
Okay.
they can go log in and just make those selections.
Okay.
And the company works both with towns they work specifically with municipalities, and they work with municipalities who both have an HR department and some who don't. So they're used to working with folks who just have no idea how to do these things. So they're skilled in that area.
Okay.
So we have a lot of benefits for the town.
So-
I was really surprised.
So they're doing a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll-
okay.
they'll do
Except
it
for
all.
payroll. No pay.
Well,
Right, then we have
yeah,
the payroll
and-
being done by
and-
the accountant.
And it's being done by the accountant right now, but it is something that we're gonna continue to review and, if it
Yeah.
makes more sense to move everything under one umbrella.
Then we
I'm
may
sure
do
you know,
that.
Amy, you looked at it before, some of the companies, the payroll part is like the huge chunk
Yeah.
that, as far as charges go, but, it's something that
But down the
they're
road, you're
they're
gonna look
analyze.
at interviewing
Yeah.
and trying to get the best company,
We
whatever
will,
works.
we will. We're like baby steps. Right now, we're still trying to figure out, did this vendor get paid? So what I've been taking on
Okay.
is, because Jennifer's doing the, select board, they're doing she's doing the, dealing directly with what you think of as HR issues, as opposed to payroll and benefits, like the employee-related relation, that.
The IAC
yeah.
stuff, the insurance stuff.
Thank you, the insurance.
employee problems, the
Yeah.
personnel matters.
Personnel, that's what.
All that stuff.
That's what I was missing.
We have retirements, we
Yeah.
have, resignations, things like that.
And I'm doing the part of, did the retirement get paid? Did the medical get paid? Did their all this, and we have about, as it turns out, like about 20 vendors related to what gets withheld from people's income. So getting those onto the warrant to get paid. I think it's complex right now because it's pulling these pieces together and going, oops, we forgot that one, because we kind of just stepped into this situation very quickly and unexpectedly. But hopefully that will be streamlined, and I was hoping that once we get it all, okay, here's your checklist, boop, 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 boom, these are the ones we do. I was hoping then that would be something that Dee Dee could, as my assistant, could then take from there, and we'd have a streamlined process going forward. So we're working on it.
Health insurance, you mentioned Jennifer's doing the health insurance, but
Yes.
this 20, that's part of benefits, the health insurance. Is Jennifer only doing the part of like looking to see which is the best company, but then afterwards this company is gonna be dealing with the individual people?
No, what she's working with right now is the IAC and the union negotiations and all that stuff. She's working with that aspect of it. Basically looking at the health insurance. I think we talked about it
The big
before.
health insurance.
The big health insurance issue of
The biggie.
do we move
yeah,
to
that issue.
the GIC, or do we, whatever. She's doing all of that stuff
All of
right
that
now with
stuff.
the unions, not actual selection of the company or anything like that.
Okay.
Inspections.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too much
Okay.
into it, just
All right.
being careful.
35.
But
Exactly.
our commissioner is ill and retiring.
Okay.
Is that Kyle?
Yes. And before he went out, we had a conversation with him, just like we have with all the other department heads, about where we could make budget adjustments, where we could make cuts. Again, this is another revenue generating department. None of these, the select board had an idea of how they wanted to approach it. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. I don't know. That's why you guys all need to talk. But ultimately, we cut, as Linda mentioned, dollars from the budget. At this point, it can come from anywhere within that budget. They don't have any expenses. We have a local inspector who works for us currently, who, when Kyle, his name's Vern, when Kyle does in fact retire, we can make him what's called a provisional commissioner, which essentially means he's like an acting commissioner. You are not allowed to not have a commissioner. Every town, every municipality must have one. So, ultimately, what the plan going forward for the new TA and finance and the select board and you all is going to have to be, what can we get away with moving forward as far as a commissioner goes? Do you need a full-time position in there? Can you drop it to 30 hours or 20 hours? We have folks who've done the job before that we could consult with. Kyle, unfortunately, just wasn't here long enough to really even give us a good idea as to what was involved here and what should we look for moving forward. So we're in reactive mode right now when it comes to the building department, just because we have to wait until retirement notice comes in before we can take any action. So our local commissioner is doing the best that he can, working with, as Linda mentioned earlier, with Dee Dee, helping a little bit in that office just to kind of keep things moving. She knows the permitting system. She helped set it up originally and all that stuff. And we're just trying to make sure that people get their permits when they file them. I don't know that the commissioner position is necessarily a full-time position moving forward. There is I don't really know how to say this, but there's kind of a monopoly on building commissioners. There's not that many of them. And a lot of them work for multiple municipalities. They cover multiple towns. Like, if I could choose another career path, I probably would choose being a building commissioner, because they can work for multiple different towns, and because they're in such high demand and because they bring in such revenue, they make They make good money. They're expensive. I mean, they literally, like, people will just throw money at these people, and they can bounce from whatever town they want.
Right. Because we're stuck. Without one, we're stuck.
Is Vern going to be working, because there's certain qualifications you need to be a commissioner.
Yep.
Is he working on getting these for?
He has the basics that you need to be only a provisional. He can never, unless he takes, I think there's 3 more tests he has to take.
Okay.
Unless he takes and passes those, he only has 18 months to be a provisional commissioner, and then he's done.
Wasn't this brought up last year at the time
When Tommy was
when
leaving,
Tommy
before
left?
Kyle came in, they had discussed, they discussed that as well. Yeah.
So,
He can only be for 18 months?
No,
Yes,
he
ma'am.
has to pass those 3 other qualifications in 18 months.
In 18 months, right.
As
And if he
active.
doesn't,
Or he's
then
done.
his
We can't-
provisional
Can't use
commissionership
them anymore.
can't use him anymore. He can go back to being a local inspector, but he can't be an actual commissioner. So he can't sign COs or any of that, of
We have
any of the
18 months
official
to figure
stuff.
this out.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but yeah, that's exactly how I'm looking at it, and it's not even gonna be me. So, you know, somebody else is getting the handoff on this one.
like right now, are inspections being done by the alternate inspector then?
Correct. The electrical and plumbing inspections are still being done by our normal inspectors, and Vern is doing everything that he
Part-time.
legally can
He's
do
the
right
PT.
now, as far as inspections goes. But we are,
For building?
yes, but we're struggling right now because I don't know all the rules of the building inspection stuff. Dee Dee actually knows a lot of it, so I'm kind of leaning on her as to what can he do legally, what can he not, when do we need to go out and see if we can find another another commissioner that can sign off on certain things. So we're in a rough spot right now. But I think as far as finances goes, we have to really kind of decide what do you need for hours moving forward as far as a commissioner? Do you need a full person? If you do what the select board has done as far as the cuts go, and you put a half person in that office for admin, if you keep the local inspector, whether it be Vern or if he retires somebody else, I don't think you need a full-time commissioner. I mean, I don't want to talk out of school, but I just feel like that money can be better used elsewhere as long as you have the support in that office.
Because if other towns have part-time commissioners going to other towns, then
It should.
Yeah.
why not having that option?
Yeah, I mean, they're
They
not-
hate to cut the hours, but
100%.
that's an option. So
100%.
I guess
Quite honestly, Peter, it's more likely that a full-time commissioner in one place would become our part-time. That's how in demand they are. So they wouldn't be doing a splitting between town. That would be an add-on.
Right. Now, have we, I guess, has the question, are there being provisions made as to like, not knowing of what's gonna be happening with Vern, if he's gonna be motivating within these 3 qualifications within the 18 months, that there is a contingency plan to finding out other local commissioners that might assist the town. So
Yeah, I'm working on.
It's not just
I'm working on a
deadheaded
backup
on one
plan.
person,
No,
we're
no.
making options.
I'm working on that right now. I actually have several, I know a lot of contractors, and I've been making calls
Okay.
and asking, what do you know anybody? What we're looking for really is, because of the revenue issue that we've been having, right? It's clear that these are down. And when Mr. Quinlan was here previously, they were, measure anything against what he was bringing in, it's going to be low. The issue is that we went from the tale of two commissioners. One of them was bringing in a lot of revenue, but when you do that, it's just like writing speeding tickets. You're going to get some complaints about it. The other one wasn't necessarily bringing in a lot of revenue, and there was concerns that things were slipping through the cracks.
That's
What's
why
going
I've
on?
always hated that projections for the following
Yeah.
year for money that
Yep.
we really don't have. We're just guessing that we're going to get it.
Yeah.
So that's why I've
Tommy,
always
I
hated
mean,
those.
when
future
Tommy was here, when Tommy
projections.
was here, and looking back on it, I wasn't here for the budgets, but I have looked at all these. He was pretty, pretty
Consistent. Very
consistent as
consistent.
far as that goes. And this year bit us in the rear just because they went down so low, but the projection remained up there because why would we think they would change?
Right.
So,
So this
to answer your
112
question,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, Peter, to answer your question, yes, I'm looking just in case Vern either doesn't want it, doesn't work out, we got to find somebody else.
Got it. Thank you.
And this 112, that was Kyle's.
That was Kyle's full-time.
Yep.
And then we cut that in half, we added in a half, and what you need to really pay attention to now is the bottom line for salaries. I mean, basically, we don't know quite how this is going to go together. We think it's going to go together kind of like this. I think it's sort of proven itself that some support is needed in the office, because what we have when you're putting your money into the 2 inspectors, there's a lot of times of the day where it's just dark. You walk into town hall, there's no one in there, and contractors and people do like to come in and see somebody. So
Well, a lot of
some
the inspections are now online,
It's a balancing
which
act.
is frustrating because I'm one of those contractors
Well, there you
that
go.
like to talk to
There you
the
go.
gas and the electrical inspector, but that's just the way how the future's now going to not having to fill in your permit.
Yeah.
You've been doing this long enough, do it online, submit it, drop it off, and you're done.
It's a balancing act, and that's another one of those ones that we'd love for you guys to hash out with the select board to give some guidance on where you'd like to go with it. Because if you decide, well, maybe we can get away without the support staff, and we bump up the hours for a really great commissioner that some all-star that can come in and do it all. You can still save the money, but the office goes dark. If it's more valuable to you guys that the office be open more hours so contractors can come in and talk, then maybe you reduce the hours of the commissioner and you add in the support staff. The expenses would be relatively the same. You'd still have a cut in that budget, and it would be good for the overall budget, but it's a matter of, I guess, preference. And
So it's like a moving target right now.
right.
everything about
Right.
this is a moving
And we-
target.
and we- yeah.
This is one of the more moving targets.
Because most of the contractors, they have the phone numbers of the electrical inspector, the plumbing, the
They're still
gas,
available.
and building, and say,
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
I got a question about
Yeah.
this on this of the code book. Is it nice face to face? Of course it is, but if you've been doing it long enough, that's what the phone number's for, is calling them up and say, I need a few minutes, which I've done
And you gotta,
with our gas
and
inspector.
you gotta
I've talked to him
build.
for a long
I
time.
think the issue is that if you've been working with those guys long enough, you build that trust and that rapport, so they know that when you call them and ask them X, Y, and Z, they know you're not going to screw it up. So they're like, yeah, go ahead and do that, and then come into the office later next week and we'll file the paperwork. Whereas if it's some brand new HVAC company in the area, maybe you should come in and we should talk about this to make sure you're doing it the right way. And,
Right.
and that's
Yeah.
kind of how that's always worked. At least that's what I've been told. Again, I'm a little short on the building inspector.
So getting the permit fees done correctly and collected, the copies of the building permits go to the assessor. And that's when Cheryl was talking about looking for new growth. That's her feed in to new growth. So when we aren't issuing the permits, or they're not being issued for the correct amounts, or not being collected, the assessor's office is not getting the information that someone's putting in $100,000 worth of of renovations to their place. So there's no new growth to capture, to share with the taxes, over the tax collector. It's all
And
Big
is
circle
that
goes around in
commissioner
circles.
supposed to be confirming, or gas or electrical inspectors? They're the ones that are setting up the fee schedule to making sure it goes then to the assessors correctly,
Yes.
and then the whole
Yeah.
wheel that we're turning there.
Supposed to
The
be.
inspectors
Supposed to
or a support person.
Right.
So, what's the best way to do that? I've never worked in an inspections office. I just do the numbers. I say, see what you can do with this money. But I know it's been a multi-month process here of trying to figure out how we get that righted. so that we get some more income.
I have a question on where the number came, a number came from. Currently, as admin salaries, that was one of the ones we dropped, right? That didn't get filled.
That's
So-
right. Look back to 25, and we had a full-time.
had
Yeah,
someone.
we had Tammy in then, yeah.
And that person's gone, and then we
Right.
didn't refill that person.
Correct.
It was
Okay.
one of the no refills, that was one of the.
That's what I thought.
Frozen.
So
No
now-
unemployment. Remember, we had those positions open when the override didn't pass in the fall, so that was one of the ones that was left open.
So now so that's where that came in. So now if we ended up because if we ended up cutting the treasurer assistant part-time, that possibly could go into that bucket. So then we're not losing an actual employee with, that
You
has
bet.
longevity,
Those are
that's
the-
been here and has all that. We keep that employee.
It's preferable to cutting a position in half and then having them leave, which is
Right.
which is the biggest danger. I was like, oh great, I have time. They don't necessarily agree to that, and quite honestly, until Kim mentioned that, I hadn't even thought about whether that meant they were going to slip right under the benefits line, which is,
Yeah.
you know, it's one thing leads to another. It's
Yeah,
like-
well, I mean, it's
another-
people that have given us a lot of time,
Yes.
and it's a big deal, and so, but these are people that actually can do 2 different jobs, so that's great.
Yep.
Okay. So, is there a particular, the dollar amount, is there anything particular in that why that dollar amount was chosen, or does it matter? Is it just something that was thrown in there?
I wonder if that was half of her pay.
Well, it's a little
There-
more
there
than
was
half. It's about 5,000 more than half. So that's my question.
Okay.
Is there another person involved in this? I
No.
mean, are you looking at more
Oh,
hours
yes, there
somewhere?
is. Yeah, yes, there is. The same person who is 5 hours for Kayla in land
Okay.
use also spends 5 hours there. This is a person who has been over 3, 4, at least back to Carolyn. She hired her, so at least maybe 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
We have a large scanner that was purchased
Yeah.
maybe 10 years ago to put plans through and scan them in. And big box by big box, if you've ever come into the second floor and say, where are all these piles of huge tubs? Those are coming from the sewer, DPW, water. Those are the plans. Inspections office has lots of plans. She's been running plans through on a part-time basis. We had looked into a service to have them all scanned in, and it was amazingly expensive.
At one point,
And-
I thought we were having some of the students come.
Not for this level.
Okay.
Not for that kind of, I don't think we ever did it for the large plans.
Okay.
Because this is directly attached to the laptop. I think Kayla knows how to use it. I think Jimmy Maximowski is the one who got it going on planning board.
Mhm.
And Terry was trained in it, and she's been going through these musty files. She can only do so many hours a day of that. I mean, she admits that. I can only do so much. She puts them through, and then they get packaged up and they leave. But we've got them secured, and they can now be found online.
Mhm.
And this had to be done sooner or later. They're crinkly. They're yellow. You know what old paper is, and people
Mhm.
take out the old map, and they look at it. This had to be done sooner or later, and this was an incredibly efficient way to do it. Plus, have just a lovely person in town hall who can float around and can you stuff these envelopes for me, or can she cover a desk somewhere? So she also is a town hall floater when needed, but most of the time she's taking care of things like that. So anyways, that was a long answer to tell you. Yes, there is somebody else's hours in there, 5 hours. That's why it's not down to 0.
So
it
that's
is down to
half your
0.
budget.
Oh, well, I put it down to 0.
It's half your assistant's budget plus the 5,000 for the float.
That's correct. That's correct. And I don't want to be, I mean, obviously she's very well qualified, but I want to be careful, especially when there's other people who also are looking for, maybe they can be matched with a harp. You know, that I won't be overly presumptive about that. There is a process to go through to have somebody hired into the position. I assume that we would be going through that, but we also would be like to, well, we obviously don't want to lose anybody, especially the ones who've been here a while, but don't have all the answers quite yet.
I don't have any other questions right now.
Alrighty.
I don't have any questions.
You don't have any questions?
My head hurts.
I feel
Yeah.
the same.
It's been a heavy evening.
Yeah.
It's been, so yes. Well, we can't motion to adjourn, so we will wait. We will wait for you.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion by Pam, second by Paul, all in favor?